O'clock. We're going to go ahead and begin the meeting. I'm going to ask Commissioner Thomas if he will lead us in invocation, followed by the pledge. Everyone, please stand.
Please join me. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you. We thank you for this day, this time we can come together and do our county's business. We just acknowledge you as our Lord and Savior, and we're just thankful to live in a nation where we can call on your name and trust your guidance and your wisdom. I thank you for every citizen that's here tonight and those that are watching at home, and just ask you to bless each and every one of them. Just guide us in our decisions. Your holy name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, do we have any changes to the agenda?
David, I think you wanted to pull 19 off of general business. Is that correct?
I'm tabling item number 19.
You don't
We're
want
going
to
to
take it
pull.
off?
Taking it off.
So we're going to
So
pull
we have
item
too many questions to be answered there.
off of the general business. We're going to pull item number 19. If it's okay with the board, also I would like to move the awards and presentations portion up to happen after we get done with the first portion of the citizens to be heard.
Also, Chairman, we need to add on item for the Charter Committee amendment to require persons elected in the county commission provide a voter registration card and oath of residency declaring their intent to reside in the district when then elected 30 days is the agenda item name.
Okay.
It's an add-on in general business.
All right.
That can't be handled under the existing agenda?
That's right. It needs to be voted on separately.
Okay.
And consent agenda items 27, 28.
Going to pull consent agenda item number 27 and number 28.
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Have a motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, next we're going to move into the citizens to be heard section. Okay, we had a workshop that was very quick ahead of this, and we have some citizens that wanted to speak at that time. And anyway, those citizens that filled out a speaker card, those are the ones I'm going to call first. Let's see, Mr. Charles Hickman. To be followed by Michelle Bull.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to speak. My name is Charles Hickman. I live at 528 Hickorywood Drive. And what I'd like to speak about is something that's disturbing to me, and it should be disturbing to you, and that is your staff. I found out in doing some investigation, and I got interested, I'll be quite honest with you, with Mr. Cushman's application to sit on the Marine Advisory Board. And I looked through it and I thought, okay, there's nothing really there. But then something caught my eye. And primarily because of my association with the Coast Guard Auxiliary, he mentioned in here that he was pending a captain's license. I'd never heard that before. So I did some investigation, and I contacted the Coast Guard, the Captain's License Information Group, and they have it online. You can look it up, very easy. And what they told me was no application had been made, and he did not have a captain's license. That means when if he is operating a vessel for charter or for going on tours, he needs to have a captain's license. And it's something that this county kind of looked right past when they put him on the Marine Advisory Board. Someone in your staff should have done a background check on what he was saying, not just pass it off. Okay? That bothers me, because safety on the water is where the Coast Guard Auxiliary is exemplary. They're out there trying, let's put it that way. Then another thing came to the surface, And that was the two proposals that came up, and I know they've been changed, but what was interesting was I contacted FWC on this and I said, what happened with this? What's your involvement with it? Why are you involved with it at all? And I got a note back, and I was told that I could definitely read it before you because it needs to be known for all of you. It has come to our attention that you have prepared 2 project grant proposals for submittal that imply FWC supports your projects. In the event that you have the opportunity to change these 2 documents before they are submitted, I have attached them to this email with comments and recommendations for you to address prior to submittal.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hickman.
Okay?
Our next speaker is going to be Miss Michelle Bull.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Michelle Bull, and I apologize that we didn't have the opportunity to speak at the workshop, so I'm going to discuss some of the things that I would have discussed at 5. The first one, which is probably going to come up a couple times tonight, is I feel that there's a conflict of interest for Steve Cushman, who has submitted a grant proposal and asked previously for you guys' support. My concerns are that he submitted it for the grant proposal and that he would be the manager. However, he owns multiple companies in Wakulla. I looked up on Sunbiz today. There's 8 companies or associations that he's affiliated with. As one affiliation, he was the proposer of the grant and would be the co-manager of the project. In another business, he would supply the oyster spat for the grant proposal. For another, he performed research and provided some funding for the research, the scientific research for the grant proposal. For another, he proposed to provide volunteers for an organization that has very few members. And I assume, as a businessman and an owner of Wakulla Oyster Farms and Wakulla Seafood Processing, that he would participate in future harvesting of these oysters. And so I assume that this would be a money-making venture for him to get a grant from the state or from the federal government for this oil spill, and I feel that he might be taking advantage of his positions. Some of the other comments I had are regarding scientific questions. In the research and funding that was submitted with the proposals and was online, stated that he had collected, that the organization ASA had provided 10 months of baseline data, and in my scientific opinion, 10 months is not a very long time to have baseline data for water quality to propose a grant to fix anything. He also mentioned that it had taken about 5 years to collapse the population, that it would only take 2 to 3 to bring it back. I also had a question about the origin of the actual oyster spat. The assessment on page 7 states that they would be Wakulla blood spat, but my understanding is that his current oyster spat growth population came from somewhere outside of the state, and so I would definitely like to get more information about that. And also, they mentioned genetic enhancement, which I think would probably be difficult to perform in a 1.5 year project. Those are my comments, and I thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. We have Miss Alethea Lang, followed by Andre Lang.
My name is Alethea Lang, and I'm currently an ASA board member. I am submitting this speech and attachments to the board for public record. My duties were to be treasurer for the ASA, but I was never given access to the books. I asked Mr. Cushman in 2013 to release the books to me so that I could do my part with the ASA. His reply to me was that he considered me to be too busy with my personal company to be able to handle the books, and that he would continue the duty. It was brought to my attention by Mr. Cushman in September 2013 that someone had questioned that the ASA had misappropriated funds during the ASA award ceremony earlier that year. Mr. Cushman advised me to resign as treasurer because he didn't want me to get involved in any scandal that might ensue. I agreed, since I had never been involved in any of the treasurer's duties. I have since learned that Mr. Cushman has some complaints levied against him regarding Goodenough Springs and the Woodville Karst Plain project. You can read them in the attachments. It's been mentioned in the ASA application that research has been done. I am unaware of any research other than mapping exploration of cave systems. If it's been done, I would ask Mr. Cushman to provide the results of the research and the names and phone numbers of who conducted the research and their credentials to conduct the research. He also wrote that there were overwhelming support for the program, but according to the ASA December minutes, the consensus of the board was not to support it at all. I did not attend the April 2014 board meeting. I was also the CFO and business partner of North Florida Gulf Seafoods until February 28th of this year. My husband and I didn't agree with the way Mr. Cushman was conducting business, so we got out. Mr. Cushman has since asked me to resign my position on the board of ASA because he stated the majority of the ASA has formed the position that your position on the board is not conducive to the advancement of the organization. He wanted to vote me out, giving me a 24-hour notice. He violated his own bylaws to remove me as a board member and had to concede when I replied in the email that he did not even honor his own bylaws, which require a 14-day notice. I also asked the reason behind for my resignation, and he did not respond. See the email. I have decided that I do not wish to be associated with Mr. Cushman or ASA in any manner due to questionable business ethics and financial practices. I hereby publicly resign my position as an ASA board member. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Mr. Andre Lang.
Good evening. My name is Andre Lang, and I would like to shed some light on the character of Mr. Steve Cushman. I was also a partner with North Florida Gulf Seafoods until the end of February. My wife and I removed ourselves from the company because Mr. Cushman's questionable business ethics and financial practices. Upon leaving the company, Mr. Cushman still had in his possession a utility trailer that belonged to me. After numerous failed attempts to get Mr. Cushman to return the trailer, we decided in April to go to the sheriff's office to obtain assistance to retrieve the trailer. The sheriff's office referred us to the courthouse and get a document in order to take Mr. Cushman's to court to retrieve the trailer. While at the courthouse, we met a repo man named John Taylor. He assured us that he could repossess our trailer for us, and he did. In June, Mrs. Cushman called the sheriff's office to report the trailer stolen because Mr. Taylor wouldn't return it to her. Sergeant Ray Johnson contacted Mr. Taylor and asked why he wouldn't return the trailer to Mrs. Cushman. Mr. Taylor explained to Sergeant Johnson that they repossessed the trailer for me and my wife. Sergeant Johnson spoke with my wife and confirmed that the trailer belonged to me and had in fact been repossessed. Sergeant Johnson then called Mrs. Cushman back and informed her that the trailer was returned to the rightful owner, me. Sergeant Johnson stated that Mrs. Cushman acknowledged understanding. This police report was emailed to all of you board members last night. Sergeant Johnson stated that he would be happy to answer any question regarding this report. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Our next citizen is Mr. Larry Roberts, followed by Hugh Taylor.
Larry Roberts, following the parade of Bash Mr. Cushman. Following the announcement in the Wakulla News that he was running for county commission, and seeing him during the meeting shortly thereafter, I approached him and told him that I understood that he was a former military pilot. And since I was one myself, I thought we might have some things in common. I asked him about his status as a military pilot, and he said that he was an instructor pilot, an F-16 instructor pilot for 5 years at Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a home of Nellis Air Force Base. So that much jived. However, I didn't really believe anything he was saying. Still don't. He also told me he spent most of his time in law enforcement. I don't believe that either. I have a copy of a Facebook page, Mr. Cushman's Facebook page, stating that he was an Air Force retired pilot. Again, he is not. And his name as pilot shows up in various other pieces of paperwork. Bottom line is the man does not speak the truth, and he has no business being on this commission. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Hugh Taylor, followed by Mr. James Hennessy.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is all a little confusing because of the cancellation or whatever Mr. Cushman did to leave or, cancel the hearing. But I'm wasting time. The whole situation is confusing. I have a couple of things, though, I thought, number one, I would get to address my concerns about him. So, here's what he wrote. He feels the current board does not ask enough questions, does not do due diligence researching the issues. I agree. I think one of the biggest problems in this confusing mess is you all not paying attention and vetting. You and your staff. Then he says, why would Hugh Taylor all of a sudden have an interest in the bays when he resides in fairy tale land? Because I take an interest in public affairs, and I try to look up things, and I try to ask about things, and Mr. Cushman took issue with that. Why do what I do rather than staying in fairy tale land? You and your staff won't vet the program's policies. Individual credentials provide oversight in many areas, including and especially this one, and ride roughshod over transparency and ordinance. You all have had a boatload of information. It may have been short, but everything that was researched was done by citizens. He seeks to do business through, all you had to do is ask, why all the name changes? Ask for his college degree and what degree he had, and ask for his military DD-214. That would have stopped this thing from being a mess. Or ask about all his companies that are going to be doing work in a web. He seeks to do business through various corporations, but only has an occupational license for one in Wakulla County. His fish hatchery was at Clark Drive, at his home apparently, was inspected by the state as a hatchery, but it's approved by Mr. Cerna as a hobby. Then he offers spat and materials from that address for sale on the North Florida Gulf Seafoods website. There's been enough time to collect data on Mr. Cushman if there were any questions, and there were. I don't think anybody at the dais can ignore that. And all the work that was done by citizens. I think you failed us tremendously. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. James Hennessy, followed by Mr. Bob Danzy.
I guess at least we all failed.
Commissioners, James Hennessy, 90 Shady C Street, Spring Creek. The battle over the wetlands has been going on in these meetings now for a full year. And by any objective measure, there have been many, many more citizens speaking in favor of maintaining our local ordinance as opposed to repealing it, as our current commission has been intent on doing. To be frank, I think the commission severely underestimated the opposition to the repeal, and this led them to sometimes desperate measures, including personal attacks on those of us who had the audacity to suggest that citizens should have the right to express their wishes in a referendum. Of course, personal attacks and distortions are frequent strategies used when evidence for one's position is lacking. In an effort to find supposed victims of the wetlands ordinance, last fall Mr. Thomas produced a Mr. Wesolowski, who came before this Commission to represent how he was unable to develop a property he owned due to the ordinance. Not only that, Commissioner Thomas even managed to get Mr. Wesolowski on local TV to proclaim the unfairness of it all. But as Paul Harvey used to say, now for the rest of the story. It turned out that Mr. Wesolowski was a Tallahassee realtor and had purchased the land in question on a foreclosure sale for $5,900 in January 2013. Further, as I recently discovered, he had never even requested a variance for the property and sold it this past May for $21,000. While that's all perfectly legitimate, making a 250% profit in little over a year does not lend much credence to his status as a Codes victim. I also found that the few variance denials that have been issued have been typically because the owner preferred to build closer to the wetlands or wanted a bigger house, not because there was actually insufficient buildable land. If the worst hardships that our commissioners can find are that some realtors want to make even more profit and that a few property owners are inconvenienced by the ordinance, it's no wonder that they resort to slogans about property rights and freedom rather than actual evidence. I think most citizens have caught on to this sleight of hand and recognize that the commissioners are using their positions to benefit a select few at the expense of the needs of the larger community. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Bob Danzy, followed by Ms. Raven Fierce.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Bob Danzy. Thank you for letting me speak. Tonight we have an opportunity to do a great thing for the citizens of Wakulla County, and that is to once and for all free us from one of the layers of government, being the wetlands ordinance. I hope this goes through. I assume it has a reasonable chance. I thank you for all your work you've done on it, but most of all, I want to say to the people at home, not to be confused, you're going to have to vote yes to repeal the wetlands ordinance. So when people see you voting and maybe they'd be confused that you would vote yes because we've been told to vote no in November, I just want to make it clear that you'll vote yes tonight to repeal the wetlands ordinance. If that's not clear, then clarify it for me.
I think you confused everybody in the audience.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully not at home.
I think you confused everybody at home too, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the opposite of what Bob just said.
Yeah. All right, Ms. Raven Fierce.
Hi,
Thank you.
Commissioners. I'm Raven Fierce, 54 Raven Road, and I wanted to say thank you for taking heed to concerned taxpayers on item number 19. And I also wanted to address the incredible amount of difficulty that was getting an answer out of your county administrator. I really think that's something you need to address. I did find the way around that, which was to email you all as a whole, because that's how I got an answer. So I just think that's something you need to address. I think the SHIP program and maybe your other housing programs, I've seen some slaps on the wrist, I've seen some recaptures of funds. Maybe you should just look at that as a whole and see kind of what's going wrong. Thank you.
All right, that concludes our citizens to be heard for the first section. Next, we're going to go into our awards and presentations. Our first presentation is going to be by the One Stop Community Center update given by Bruce Ashley and Mr. Ray Gray.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
As always, thank you for your service. And if I may approach and give you copies of what I brought for each of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, I made it PowerPoint. Thank you.
Trying to stay as brief as possible because there is really so much to be said about what is going on at your community center, and that is everybody in this room, everybody at home, and you, the Commission. We thank you
for what you have brought forward to get us to this point, but we wanted to give you an update as briefly as we have to do that. That's why I gave you a folder. There are a variety of activities and programs that are in those folders for you to see that are occurring at the One Stop Center or being coordinated through the One Stop Center. It is truly emerging as a community center that people around the state are beginning to call and speak about and ask, how did y'all do that? And we would like to model something after what you're doing. Both regionally and statewide counties are calling the Coalition for Youth for that. We're at the end of the first 6-month grant period. That has ended with a lot of building of infrastructure, building of data collection. There is a great deal of data that is collected as to all of the happenings that go on over there. We have just entered into the first full year contract from the Ounce of Prevention Fund for the continuation of the 5 primary programs that started at the community center on the grant funding. That would be the NAMI. Parks and Rec has now joined in with us there, the Parks and Rec Department, the Health Department, the Sheriff's Office athletic activity, the library. But we have now joined hands with community Capital City Youth Services, the Capital Area Community Action Agency, the Earning Learning Coalition, Department of Children and Families, all now have a presence at the community center and are offering services to our citizens. I can't tell you how many people are in and out of the doors over there on a daily basis at this point. Our staff, which is the director of the community center, Ray Gray, Sarah Daw, who's seated behind me, obviously executive director of the coalition, Gail Campbell, is a key component of all of this happening in the beginning. Jocelyn Hayes and Pam Pilkington. Those are 4 paid jobs that this grant is sustaining at the community center. Our volunteer base is growing and growing rapidly. There are a number of people who are coming now to donate time to engage in the activities, events, and programs that are scheduled over there. A sample of the newsletter, the website, all of that is contained in your packet for you to study more in depth after this short presentation. You should be commended for taking the important first step. And I know and some of this started years ago. So it is here. It is emerging as a model as it was intended to emerge as. We've got people who are donating time for Operation Santa, which is already underway for this year through the coalition's efforts. Empty Bowls, which is a feeding initiative of hunger needs in our community. There are many people in the community that have already stepped up and are involving themselves with anticipation of greater things. Citizens, Cheryl Creel, Joanne Strickland, Sarah Daw again on her own time. Dozens of others are hard at work for a fundraiser we're having on July 26th. That technically will be the first ever Coalition of Youth fundraiser, period. We've never undertaken trying to raise funds. All of the money raised goes back into the coalition's effort at the community center and in the citizens and families that come to the community center. The grant itself is funding insurance, it's funding electricity, it's funding infrastructure. There have been in-kind donations. We're getting donations from the Department of Corrections through Commissioner Hardin. We've gotten donations from Sheriff Creel through both being the fiscal agent for this grant as well as donating other pieces of furniture that were no longer needed when the Sheriff's Office moved its facility to its new building. There is just a lot of step up. The Capital City Bank made a generous donation for sports equipment to the community center very recently. I believe that was covered by the Wakulla News. The Wakulla News is donating a lot of time and space for the marketing of the facility. I encourage everybody in this room, everybody at home, and all of you to come by, stop by. As I left there to come here, there was a mother with 3 children who walked in the door where we were able to hand them a variety of flyers of activities and services that are offered. They're bringing their children to participate in their programs over there, and there's just so much going on. It's both thrilling and a good, bad problem to have. Expectations rapidly ramping up. At the same time, we've been in a building it up process, getting it on its feet and building what needs to be there.
but the future is exciting for this community and something that's been needed for many years.
Can I ask Bruce, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
All these things Bruce has been talking about, how much is this costing the taxpayers?
As of right now, it's minimal cost, almost nothing. We're getting reimbursed for our utilities there, and there's a little lag this year between the time y'all started and the time they picked that up, so it's, I don't know, probably $5,000-6,000, something.
There's a lot of worry out there that this Wakulla County government has grown and is now they're paying for this community. You guys are paying for this. The grant is paying for this.
Right now, the generosity of the organization, you've heard presentations from CCYS, CACAA. They've come before this commission and said they want to house services. They're paying to house themselves there. They're not coming in and using our electricity. They're paying a pro rata basis to have somebody here to serve our citizens. So again, all of these partners that I mentioned, they're bringing money to the facility, cost offsetting for them to provide the services which you've never had locally for our citizens. They don't have to drive to Tallahassee to get them now.
I commend you for your efforts, all of y'all.
Bruce,
Ray.
Bruce and Ms. Campbell, would you stand up, please? Yes. These two people have been doing this business for as long as I've been here. Don't sit down. Okay, well, Sarah and Ray are newcomers. Bruce and yourself have been doing this for years, and I was just hoping that Bruce wasn't in my district because I wouldn't want to have to run against you. You don't live in my district, do you? Good.
Politics are ugly in this county.
Stay out of my district,
aren't you, Bruce?
Go ahead, Commissioner Custer.
I'll ask Ray to give you a little highlights of other activity.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. They do this on purpose. They give me the new stuff and said, let Bruce speak first. Okay, it shuts that politician up in a heartbeat. First thing, Bruce laid out a good beginning of what we've done the first few months and where we're going. And the next step through that is going to be the most important part, which is sustainability. And I'm going to close out on that in just a second. One of the things that we're doing now is Bruce started his conversation talking about the 4 positions that are now being funded through this county. One of the programs we're in the process with now, and Mr. Edwards and the county has been very cooperative all through this effort, has been the 21st Century. Currently they employ about 22 people. By coming to the community center, we've already estimated in the sign-ups, I think they've got 20 openings left, short of 200 children. So that is just the services that can be handled in a 3-hour period at the community center. Those type programs, those type grants, which are, and Mr. Thomas, I think, has that item he's going to talk about also, but that's a little over $500,000 being brought to this county and going from 22 to 33 jobs just in an upfront situation. That also brings to the center all the other services we're offering now. In a county that has a hard time marketing with the newspaper coming out once a week, which they do a great job, but we now are bringing the market to our center. So those citizens have a place, they have a way to get here. Transportation's our issue. All those things in the future we're all looking at as part of that. One of the biggest things right now, CCYS, I mentioned sustainability a while ago. The Capital City Youth Services was here 2 years ago. Now, because of the center, because of the efforts here, they're back again. They're going to be here. They've already got their office set up over there. They pulled them in out of Franklin County. They pulled them back in from Leon County. They are serving the citizens of Wakulla, your citizens, the one y'all have worked very hard to through this center. Additionally, the vocational rehabilitation serves basically 12 to 18. I'll cover it quickly. This program, there's 12 to 18 citizens in our county now that this program serves specifically for helping them to get work for our special needs population. So they're actually employed, they're trained, members are trained. Every time they get to that point, that's a new job that's created. That's more to our economy here. The Early Learning Coalition, a lot of your citizens are familiar with that because they drive to Tallahassee and they have a wonderful facility. Now, 3 days a week, the Early Learning Coalition will be here in the community center. They've already brought their computer system down. It's hooked up. We've used it. We have people walking across the street from your apartment complex signing up for insurance. We have DCF came in last week, Department of Children and Families. They now have a system set up where if you're 21 years old or younger in the state of Florida, you can walk out with insurance. There's over 1,200 programs that are available. And then they have another program that is exclusive to those that cannot be insured that have always had illness problems. The nice part about the community center is my final item, which is sustainability. Folks, it is about the money, it will always be, but the sustainability of this item is if we can get these programs here to provide for our citizens, all those federal programs that are out there are now here. They don't even have to drive to Tallahassee for those citizens that don't have the transportation, or they got both parents working, the children are at home, they're doing the best they can just to put gas in the car to get back and forth. It's right here in this county now. And Mr. Bruce hit on one subject as they come in. Every day we have a story. There's the veteran that was located 2 miles outside the service area in Panacea. Came in. His problem was his veteran services. He's retired, disabled. He can get transportation. He's 2 miles outside the limit, so he can't get services to Tallahassee unless he gets someone to take him, independent of their normal service. So he now has been moved to Crawfordville for 6 months. All his bills have been paid. This is one of your veterans that we all honor, and many of you are. He now has the services for 6 months. It's paid for where he's at until he can get in the program. I hate to see him move to Tallahassee, but for the first time in his life, he has the opportunity to own a home of his own under the VA program that's in place up there. So we've got his services. We hate losing him as a citizen. We got him for 6 more months. The most important part is after all the service he's given our country and the citizens of Wakulla, now we're able to give back. That's what the community center does. We do it every single day. It's a great job, guys. I love it. I mean, but I wouldn't even have the opportunity if y'all had not taken the step several years ago. So I'm so glad that we are where we are. We're glad we have the funding, and we're not sitting on our haunches. Like Ms. Gale said, it'd be nice if Sarah was standing up. She's a lot better looking, but at least we could get to the point where if y'all come to the center, we'll be happy to see you. I'd love to see you come in. Many of the commissioners have already been over there. Some of them are regular guests. We kind of like that. Yes. But every time you come over, there's something new going on. Well, next door, it's busting, it seems. We had 5 volunteers from the corrections today. The deputies came down and actually were painting the other facility to try to help us catch up with some of the areas of what we needed. So, I mean, just volunteers coming out to woodwork. And as Mr. Bruce had mentioned, the programs that have already come up wanting to be a part of what's happening in this county. And the fact that it's a pilot program for Ounce, it's the only one they have with 5 separate programs in it. So our future looks very bright with the center, and everything we've offered so far is just more programs to your citizens that are here now.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I think Commissioner Thomas had some things you wanted to add.
Mr. Chairman, this board appointed me as your representative for the Coalition of Youth, so I've had a chance to work alongside with these folks and just see great things happening, and that can't happen without a lot of time and dedication and talent. So I just wanted to make sure we acknowledge some of the board members that are spending their time to make sure this comes about. And you may not know, but the Coalition of Youth has been around since 2000, so nearly 15 years now these folks have been putting plans together and serving our community, and it's starting to pay off in a big way. Miss Beth O'Donnell is retiring this month. She's been around from the very beginning as one of the board members, and so I want to give a special acknowledgement to her. She's only missed 2 meetings in the past 14 years, so her commitment has been there on behalf of the school system. Amy Geiger is currently the chairman, and she is the president of Capital City Bank, donates her own time to serve on this board. Sheriff Charlie Creel, also on the board of directors. Superintendent of Schools Bobby Pierce. Tanya English just filled in for Miss Beth O'Donnell, just took over her position. John Willis of Disk Village. Our county administrator, David Edwards, also serves on that board, so we've got someone there representing the county on their board. Let's see who, I don't want to miss anyone. We mentioned Bruce Ashley. Tanya Hobby is the vice president. Stacy Harvey is the secretary, and Gail Fine is the treasurer. I hope I didn't miss anyone, because there's been a lot of folks that have really poured a lot of their time into this, so I just wanted to acknowledge each of those.
Gail Campbell.
Oh, Gail Campbell for sure. We can never say enough about Gail. Appreciate what you guys are doing.
Thank you all very much. Is there any more discussion amongst commissioners? Okay, our next presentation is going to be by Commissioner Kessler, the Volunteer Fire Department recognition. Commissioner Kessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask Marty Suggs to come forward and put him at the attention of everybody. And you might stand there. And Marty Suggs is a volunteer in our fire department, volunteer fire department, Station 6. And we all know that we had a really big fire with Pygots, cash and carry, long-time building. It was a very big fire. And there were a lot of equipment, a lot of volunteers on the scene. And one of our pieces of equipment was, with the development of the fire, started to get hot and started to get damaged. And as that fire grew, site commander noticed that and asked that engine 5 with hoses deployed be moved. And we always think, what would I do? What would I do under certain conditions? You never know what you do under certain conditions until those conditions are in front of you. This man is a hero. This man, when that order was given to move that piece of equipment, he was the fellow who responded without care for his own regard, but for the county and its equipment and its safety. And he injured himself during that, because that truck was hot, and he burnt his hands moving that truck. There were a lot of people on the scene, but Marty Suggs was the person that came forward, one of our volunteers. And I thought that, I know he already received recognition from within the fire department, but I think that publicly he deserved additional recognition. So I'm going to ask his family to come forward and stand behind him for a little photo op. And I know there are volunteers in the audience that are sharing with you, Marty, in this moment. And I'm going to present you in a moment with a plaque that reads, "Presented to Marty Suggs for his heroic actions as a volunteer firefighter, resulting in a significant benefit to WCFR from the many thankful citizens of Wakulla County, July 14th, 2014.
Commissioners, thank you. I've been doing this for over 30 years. I retired and moved back home. I was raised in Franklin County. Decided to move back home, be close to family. I'd do this again if it had to be. It's not, to me, it was nothing heroic. I just seen a piece of equipment that needed to be saved. No sense in letting it be a total loss. Maybe we can repair it and get it back in line, and I thank you for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Now we have to do public hearing.
Public hearings first.
Oh, that's right, okay. I didn't skip through, that's right.
Sorry about that. Let me get situated here.
Yeah, we got to switch around. All right, public hearings.
You moved it around.
Yeah, I moved it around. Yeah, I moved it. I remember we moved it around.
Did it on your own.
Happens to the best of them.
Okay, public hearings. Our first public hearing is going to be to request board approval to conduct a public hearing, consider and adopt an ordinance providing referendum election to be held on November 4th, 2014 for the purpose of determining whether the Wakulla County Charter should be amended to require a nonpartisan election of all elected county officials.
I'll move option 2, which is the one where if there's only 2 running, it goes straight to the general election.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and second for option number 2. Do we have any, I've got some, these are citizens to speak on. I've got several citizens to speak on this issue, and then we'll speak on it and we'll vote then. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. John Shuff to come up and speak.
Yeah, my name's John Shuff. Give it short and sweet. Just would like to encourage you to accept option 2, so that we don't have elections that get decided by a small percentage of our population.
Okay, our next speaker is going to be Chuck Hess.
So as I'm Chuck Hess, 112 Lake Allen Circle. I'm assuming that the option 2 is basically the same thing on the Charter Review Committee. So as long as that's the case, yes, I support this. Move it forward with option 2. Thank you.
Next speaker is Chris Russell.
Chuck, agree with me.
Mark the time.
This is the test.
This is the test. Good evening, Commissioners. It's not the same, Chuck, but it's what we want. It's what we can get. We're going to have to go back and change it. We applaud you for doing this. It's a great move forward. You'll never take politics out of everything, but it's a good step forward. I think every one of you, if you asked, you wouldn't be about what your party was, but it's about the people when you're up there. I myself, I'm running for a nonpartisan office. I've taken donations from both sides. I mean, you'll never get away from that, but what you're doing is you're sending a message that your office is the office of the people, and I think that's a great job. Last month when it was brought up, there was concern about low voter turnout in the primaries, and that's a valid concern. The Charter Review Commission, a lot of our work was done at election issues where there was low voter turnout. This is a good option if you only have 2 going forward to take it to the general election where you have a higher voter turnout. So I definitely think you're on the right path, and thank you for taking it up.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Bob Danzy. All right. Hugh Taylor. Larry Roberts.
I'm a Republican. More importantly, I'm a conservative. And I vote for whoever I wish to vote for. And I guess I'm the only person in the county that's been booted out of the executive committee twice because I supported somebody of another party. Anyway, it works fine for the school board. It'll work fine for the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all the citizens will have to speak on this issue. Is there any discussion amongst commissioners?
I got a quick question, just very briefly. Heather, if there's 3 candidates, it goes to the primary. Does it get settled in the primary, or the top 2 go on to the general election?
It depends. If one of the 3 candidates
Gets over
more
50?
than 50%, then
Okay.
it's settled there.
And it's so it is possible if someone was relatively popular or whatever, they could win in the primary and not
That's
even
correct.
with several people running.
Okay, Commissioner Kessler, you had some.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I agree with this item that's coming forward. I think the people should have the choice to make that decision. But again, we're asking the citizens during a non-election year, which is a low voter turnout historically, to make that. And I don't understand the rush, and I don't understand why it's not 2 years from now when this is coming forward. So, you know, we all want the majority, all want as many people to be voting on this as possible, yet we're putting it in a position to not see that. And I think that's still a problem. And although I agree with no party affiliation elections, and I agree with the second option, I'll be voting against it just from that point of view.
I think tonight, fundamentally, this vote is about simply to put it on the referendum for the people to decide.
Correct.
Which is I'll be voting coming up here shortly in a minute. I'll be voting for that reason, in order for this to go to the citizens, for the citizens to have an opportunity to vote on it in referendum.
Yeah, and I fully agree, Mr. Chairman. It's just like I would like to see it at the general election, presidential election, when the majority of the people that are going to vote would be voting.
Maybe we can move the wetlands referendum in, too.
You know, and the wetlands referendum should be there, had not this board precipitated the issue.
I didn't want to start an argument.
Okay, but that's it. I totally agree. The citizens should have been allowed to have that on.
I think we're fixing to get into that next one. So, but as far as this one, we have any more discussion amongst the commissioners? We have a motion made and a second to put this to referendum to the citizens. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Passes 4-1. Thank you. Our next one, the wetlands ordinance.
Yes, Commissioners, this item, as you know, is to repeal sections 32.01 through 32.015 of the Wakulla County Code of Ordinances dealing with wetlands protections. As you know, this deals with the local wetland buffer protections, as well as standards for docks, piers, boardwalks in wetlands. We're recommending board direction, as this was a board-directed agenda item.
I make a motion to conduct a public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance repealing section 32.001 through section 32.015 of the Wakulla County Code of Ordinances concerning wetlands protection.
Second.
Have a motion made and second. I've got numerous citizens to speak on this issue. Our first citizen is Eugene Watkins.
Eugene Watkins, Crawfordville, Florida. Well, like somebody said, we've been at this for about a year, and I've learned a lot in a year. I had one view of government a year ago, and I definitely have a different one today. I never really knew that commissioners would resist the will of the people the way they do. It really saddened me. I helped collect the 5,000 plus signatures from the people that wanted to have a vote on this. I think, Randy, you actually voted to let the citizens have a vote just a couple months ago. Richard, you did too, and Howard. And I think Richard, I think you even had it in the paper you voted for, to give people a chance to vote. So 3 of you guys have said you want to give the people a vote. At the best, I would think you guys, if you decide to go ahead with this, if you would make it, if it becomes law, that it would wait until November after the people have a chance to vote and let you know whether they want to get rid of this ordinance or not. You know, the 3 of you are giving the people the vote, and now you're kind of almost like you're taking it away because you're going to go ahead and get rid of this ordinance. And I think the right thing to do would be to wait, or at least make it not be active until after the people vote. I've talked about where I'm from. I'm doing this, everything I do, going to 1,500 homes, talking to people. I still talk to people every day. 80% of people want the vote and want to keep this wetlands ordinance. I don't know of anybody else that's been to that many homes. So I know what the people want. I've talked about where I'm from. I'm from Brevard County. What I had as a kid is gone. I'm not going to make any profit from this, having done all this work. The only thing I'm doing is trying to help the next generation, the kids in Wakulla County, so they'll have a future, and that's why I've done this for the past year. And please let the people vote before you get rid of the wetlands ordinance. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Chuck S.
Chuck Hess, 112 Lake Ellen Circle. Consistent year, consistent response. You know where I'm going to come from this. The interesting thing is that there have been chances for compromise along the way, and you have regularly turned them down. Mr. Merritt has a couple of opportunities for compromise. You regularly have turned them down. I just don't see you doing anything but my way, and I don't find that reasonable in our elected officials. And I'm very disappointed the way you're moving forward with this. It's my way or the highway, and that's not acceptable. I really think you need to reassess this and at least compromise and make it such that it doesn't take place until the people decide in November. Thank you.
Our next speaker is going to be Mr. Taylor Phillips.
Good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Taylor Phillips. I've been a resident for 10 years in Crawfordville, and in the interest of full disclosure, I'm a candidate for Wakulla County Commission District 2. I'm also proud that I signed the Wakulla Wetlands petition because I believe in government that is respectful of the will of the people, and because I believe that we need to maintain the protections of our wetlands. I believe that failure to protect our wetlands hurts the ordinary citizen, the commercial fisherman, the teenager who swims at Shell Point Beach, and the mother who pours her children a glass of water that has too much E. coli bacteria in it to be healthy. Not protecting our wetlands leads to poor water quality, fewer fish, closed beaches, lost jobs, and sick children. Protecting the wetlands is the right thing to do for the common good. Buffering the coastal wetlands is important because they help abate storm surge and reduce insurance costs. Lowering insurance rates by working with instead of against a community rating, and thereby helping everyone, no matter where your home is located, throughout the county. Protecting our wetlands leads to prosperity that lifts all boats, not only the boats of a privileged few. Finally, our Constitution calls for government of, by, and for the people. Regarding our wetland environment, the people continue to speak loudly and clearly. I hear what they are saying. Do you? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Ms. Sandy Tedder, followed by Mr. Bob Danzy.
I'm Sandy Tedder, Sop Choppy, and I too would caution you, and I'm not alone in thinking this way, that it would be in the best interest of everybody and everything in the county if you would not make your decision tonight to repeal the wetland ordinance. I think there are a lot of reasons why not to keep it the way it is, and a lot of reasons why you shouldn't repeal it. And if you do repeal it, wait until the citizens have had a chance to say they don't want it. But I think a majority of citizens will come out, they will vote to keep the ordinance the way it is, and you lay the county open to such a boatload of problems if you do something now and then it's voted back in later. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bob Danzy, and followed by Mr. Victor Lambu.
Thank you. My name is Bob Danzy. Well, we're finally down to it. I guess we're either going to do it or we're not. So I want to tell you that I support you repealing the wetlands ordinance, and that means for you all to vote yes.
You got
it. I could rebut this and I could rebut that. I suppose we could go on all night. There will probably be 10 to 1 as far as speakers go.
and I could rebut them every one, but the bottom line is this is a layer of government on people that can be removed, and the county and the citizens will be much better for it when it's gone. There will be no building. This doesn't say you can build in the wetlands. This only says you can build of a buffer of 25 foot from the wetlands instead of 75 foot for the wetlands. It's a standard that the state uses. You know, the North Florida Water Management District didn't always protect isolated wetlands, but they do now, and that gave us the ability to get rid of part of the potential lawsuits, the liabilities. It just gave us a chance to do a better thing for the citizens of Wakulla County. So, thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Victor Lambu, followed by Mr. James Hennessy.
I'm Vic Lambu, and I'm representing the Wakulla Wetlands Alliance. I'm just curious of why you're in such a mad rush to repeal our local wetlands protections. That is, you're going to do it within 10 days, when our citizens will be telling you in just about 4 months if they want local control or do not want it. Why the rush? The citizens will be telling you, commissioners, they agree with you in about 4 months, so why now? Why the rush? Is there any remote chance that you do not trust our citizens to do what they want, and do what they want? Is that so bad? Why the rush? Is there some big projects that you have to get started that could not wait for the review process to start in a few months? I don't know, since you don't confide in me. Why the rush? What is so terrible about waiting 4 months? It makes one wonder if you trust our citizens. Why the rush? Could you be worried that good politicians like you are not capable of explaining to our citizens why we should get rid of the local control of our wetlands? Pray not. You're too good of politicians for that. Why the rush? Please, beg you explain to our citizens why you in such a rush. Why the rush? Is the WWA so wrong? Surely our citizens have the smarts to understand if the WWA is wrong and agree with the majority of you commissioners. Our citizens are not stupid. Do you believe they are? Why the rush? I've read the tea leaves, and I believe the majority of you are going to tell our citizens you don't trust them. But you, Mr. Chairman, I really did think that you that even though you're against local control of wetlands in our county, that you would have the integrity and respect of our citizens to respect what they're going to decide and try not to ram it down their throats. Mr. Chairman, please be honorable and vote against this. I know it will not tip the balance, but please be honorable. Why the rush? Please explain to us and the 30% of our voting citizens who signed the wetland petitions why you don't trust them.
Our next speaker is Mr. James Hennessy, followed by Mr. Bill Anderson.
Commissioners, James Hennessy, 90 Shady C Street. Well, this has been a long, winding road to finally get us to this point of this commission repealing our local wetlands protections. So it might be a good time to reflect back a little bit on the process. A reasonable citizen would think that this board would have had compelling reasons to overturn comp plan amendments related to conservation and wetlands protection in existence for 20 years, and to overturn a wetlands ordinance that had been put in place by not one but 2 prior county commissions. You would think that they would be reluctant to undo the hard work put in by a diverse citizen committee that examined the research about wetlands protection, had inputs from all segments of our community, including development and real estate interests, and had the proposed ordinance thoroughly reviewed by legal counsel. You would also think that if they wanted to turn over the protection of our precious natural resources to the state, that they would have done their homework and determined that the state was up to the task. Of course, that's what a reasonable person might expect. However, all the evidence suggests that the county's lull in development can be primarily attributed to nationwide and statewide burst of the housing bubble. Repealing the ordinance will do nothing to promote growth. The ordinance itself was more visionary than problematic, while our governor's dismantling of the DEP and participating in a suit to prevent the cleanup of Chesapeake Bay undermines any likelihood of state protection of our local waters and wetlands. You might also think that with all the issues facing the county, infrastructure, budget deficits, water quality, employment, developing a viable downtown, lagging tourism and fisheries, that the board would have other priorities than dismantling our wetlands protections. In fact, if you ask most people in and out of Wakulla County with what do they associate our county, they are likely to say wetlands, or mention those things related: Wakulla Springs, St. Mark's Wildlife Refuge, fishing, hunting, birding, and kayaking. With all of Wakulla needs, the signature action of our current board imperils the very essence and lifeblood of our county. The most common question I am asked about our county in regard to the wetlands is, quote, "What in the world are your commissioners thinking?" It's a hard question to answer. What I do know is that this county needs a new direction. The current board's actions have created divisiveness, mistrust, and uncertainty about our future. We need a board that values community, has a vision that goes beyond self-interest, and that will nurture sustainable development. We need a board that respects Wakulla's citizens and natural environment, and finds ways to meet the needs of both.
Our next speaker is Mr. Bill Anderson, followed by Dana Peck.
Bill Anderson, Surf Road. As a matter of disclosure, I'm a candidate for the County Commission District 4. As other speakers have said, we sit here tonight having this have gone on for more than a year. Later in the agenda, you have an RFP for a county attorney or whatever. If you'll look at that, the supporting documentation for that, and consider the public announcements that you've had in addition to the dollars there and the staff time, you'll see as we stand today, you spent at least $10,000 trying to repeal this ordinance that the public does not want you to repeal. Your staff has recommended against it, and the state has recommended against it, and yet we're here today, you having spent $10,000 to get to this point. It's less than 4 months before the election where the voters are going to decide whether they want to keep this ordinance or whether they don't. If you do away with it tonight and the public puts it back in, that is a very reckless act on your part. You're supposed to steer this county away from risk and potential liability. As you look at that RFP for legal services, if we have them in addition because of your action tonight and not willing to wait 4 months, it's on each of the heads of the commissioners that vote for that tonight. So consider that. I suggest that you not take any action tonight, or if you do, that you conditioned it upon only being a repeal if the voters vote against keeping this ordinance in place on November 4th. Give the voters their choice and don't spend any more of the taxpayers' money in this reckless manner. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Dana Peck, followed by Mr. Hugh Taylor.
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. I imagine that all of you, like so many of us, would love to see a thriving oyster industry, oyster farming industry in Wakulla County. So on my downtime as a retiree, I'm cruising along the web pages of the Division of Aquaculture in the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and I thought you might not know this, but on that web page instructing shellfish, commercial shellfish farmers, it says that they have kind of a duty to inform their community, and specifically their county commissioners, the importance of proper maintenance of septic systems in the county in order to have a good oyster industry, zoning to provide reasonable dwelling density in coastal areas, and I love this one the best, shoreline vegetative buffers. That's to have a good oyster industry. So if that's what you want, it's time to put your vote where your mouth is. I think that you know that the Wakulla County ecosystem is fragile. That's why we have the Wakulla Environmental Institute, one of the most top 5 biodiverse ecosystems in the nation. I think that you know that wetlands protection is good for the economy of this county. It helps people to control floods. It reduces the flood insurance rates, and that boosts house sales and buying and good economy. I think you know that the voters are going to the polls on November the 4th to tell you whether they want our own county wetland protection. And I think you know that removing the wetlands buffers that we have puts this county at risk. You've argued that. It puts the county at risk. Why would you put the people of this county in a position where the county is at risk? Why would you do that to them? Why don't you do something that's better for them rather than something that's worse for them? Why don't you wait until November the 4th and let the people speak? And then those of you who are still left here can decide what you want to do with the wetlands after that.
Our next speaker is Mr. Hugh Taylor, followed by Ms. Madeline Carr.
Gentlemen, if all proceeds from the land and something higher, if the land proceeds from something higher. Psalms 24. The land is mine, and you are but aliens and my tenant. Throughout the country that you hold as a possession, you must provide for the redemption of the land. Wakulla is a very special and fragile place. Not to give 4 months to affect the change, I don't think it's about trust or this or that. I think you're afraid. I think you're afraid of the polls, that those people who are in favor of repealing the wetlands ordinance will not see another term of office. What are you afraid of? It's the same as the Charter Commission. You know, you're rushing the Charter Commission like you're rushing this. You have a fiduciary duty to all of our citizens. The liability and the position you're putting us in is awful. We need a new way, and apparently we need new people up there. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Madeline Carr, followed lastly by Mr. Larry Roberts.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me address this issue, which we've been discussing for so many years, it seems like, because I was involved initially when the ordinance came together with Victor Lambu. I'm speaking tonight as Madeline Carr, the president of the Friends of Wakulla Springs State Park. We believe that it is irresponsible of the board to repeal what was hailed as the Model Wetlands Protection Ordinance. But that said, we are pleased to be able to have an event at the community center that was discussed earlier. We encourage everyone to come and learn about wetlands. We'd like to invite all of you to come and learn a little bit more about wetlands protection and about the springs that we knew, springs that have disappeared, and the importance of the buffers to the ecosystem at the community center on August the 23rd at 6:30. So look for our announcements in the mail and in newspapers, because we're going to have some people here in the county that are known not only nationwide but specifically from the Florida Springs Institute, and also some movies and some fun things. Sandy Tedder will be there at the second event. So the Friends of Wakulla Springs are stepping out of the park. We're bringing the park to the community with these events, and we invite everyone to come and learn about wetlands that you hopefully are not going to do the buffers. You're not going to repeal or do away with the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker on this issue is Mr. Larry Roberts.
Gentlemen, Mr. Thomas particularly has spoken several times about this window of opportunity for a lawsuit. Also, a lot of articles he's written for the Wakulla News. And with that said, to answer Mr. Lambu's question, I think this is a preemptive strike. You increase that window of opportunity for liability, and thus, hopefully, you'll intimidate the voters in the forthcoming election for fear, if they vote for it, the county will get sued. Well, I'm not intimidated, and I hope the people out there are not either. Since I promised Mr. Merritt I'd be out of here early, I will speak to number 25 very briefly. I'm concerned about that. I would suggest that you vote no. What I'm concerned about is who may have their tentacles, may or may not have their tentacles on this project also. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our citizens that filled out a card to speak on that issue. Is there any discussion amongst commissioners?
Well, I've repeatedly tried to compromise on this issue. I mean, I've been working on this 4 years. I've said this several times. I'll say it again. I believe there is public sentiment for coastal and river wetlands protection. But when most citizens think of that, they think of development, they think of subdivisions. Most people don't understand this wetlands ordinance applies to a 50 by 100 lot. It's been owned since the 50s or the 60s. It affects you. It makes it where you cannot build on it if the right conditions are met. I've been contacted by 3 people at least. I don't build houses anymore, but they want to build on their property. They don't want to destroy the wetlands. They want to build a house on their lot that they've owned for years. They cannot do it because there is no variance procedure to get closer than 35 feet to that wetland buffer, to the wetlands. That's my real problem with this ordinance, is that there's no variance procedure to get closer than 35 feet, no matter what. And it treats an isolated wetland that may be a swamp in your backyard with the same amount of protection as a pristine marsh that's an estuary that I think everybody agrees deserves probably extra protection, and I would support that at some point in the future. But I'm in a box. I got to make a decision. Either repeal it or keep it. And whatever good things there are about the wetlands ordinance, the bad to me far outweighs it. And I've also, my opinion on the let's delay the implementation date has evolved, if you will, because if we repeal it now, which I'm going to support repealing it now, at least the people that are sitting there waiting to do something with their property can go ahead and get a building permit to not destroy wetlands, but to build a house on their lot without destroying any wetlands. Heather, if we pass this, does this mean that tomorrow people can go fill in wetlands? Okay. Say that again?
No.
So we got a firm answer from the lawyer on that one.
We cannot go fill in wetlands.
Okay. Thank
Excuse
you.
me, I'd like to ask.
Let me finish real
okay.
quick and I'll be done. I believe if we put this on the referendum, I believe if the citizens, and I'm going to honor whatever choice the citizens make. If the citizens decide that they want to impose buffer zones and a 5-0 vote requirement to change the buffer zones and deny people use of their property, the citizens of Wakulla County should be willing to compensate those people for that. That's the citizens' decision, and that's my position. That's what it's evolved to. You know, I tried to compromise on this issue several times. Neither side wanted to compromise. I was demonized. Even when I said, let's just have it inside the 35-foot buffer zone, I was treated like I wanted to go take a shovel and fill in Wakulla Springs. But anyway, that's all I got to say.
Mr. Kessler, you wanted to comment?
Yes. In the state of Florida,
I'm going to
What's the question, Mr. Chairman?
He was wanting to know if it would be your time, but during this discussion, we can
Time?
speak we can
I have a
speak
set
numerous
amount of
times.
time now?
No, sir, you don't. We can speak numerous times during this issue.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chairman. Appreciate that. In the state of Florida, can wetlands be filled in legally?
Yes, with a permit.
I mean, you can...
Yes, with a permit. Yes.
Yeah.
So if a proper permit is obtained, wetlands can be filled in and developed upon.
We voted to let the power company fill some in a couple weeks ago, Howard.
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that. So when people are making statements that you can't build in the wetlands, that's not right. You can build in the wetlands. Okay? You can build in the wetlands. Every year, Florida loses wetlands legally, permitted legally. You know, we all talk about big government. We don't like big government messing with us. Here's local government, okay? Here's citizens with an initiative that's saying, we want to do this. We want these wetlands protected. People are making statements. You can't build in the wetlands. Not true. We heard people at one of the forums where worked for a Department of Protection, Environmental Protection. Says we're a permitting agency. And as far as buffers, if we don't understand the importance of those buffers, it doesn't have to be a huge wetland. It's a web. It's all interconnected. I mean, you all live here in this county longer than I have. I grew up in a marshland in the South Shore of Florida. It's basically the same. The birds don't distinguish a private piece of property from a public piece of property. And the whole environmental system works on having a healthy wetland and having healthy buffers. So, you know, I've heard the discussion. I was going to attempt to make a friendly amendment to have the effective date after the citizens have the opportunity to vote on that.
Which I did last time we voted on this, by the way.
I understand, but what I'm hearing is, and I'll try it again then, but I don't think it's going anywhere. But if the rush and whatever's producing this rush to have this vote take place, and I understand it's to give people an opportunity to build on lots that maybe they can't build on. But we hadn't had that many situations where people have been denied.
Because you can't even ask for the variance, Howard. That's why they haven't been denied, because they can't even ask permission. And back to the wetland filling, can you go out and arbitrarily fill a wetland then, if you just want to?
Not legally. You'd have to...
Well, I mean, but we have...
You're trying to scare people,
Oh,
Howard,
no.
saying that
I'm saying...
you're going to start building on wetlands. No, you can't. The state doesn't allow you to just go fill in a wetland.
No, you get a permit. You fill out the proper paperwork. You get a permit. You do it. If you're
justification.
local, that's right. And you heard people say, if you were at that forum at the library, you heard a person with, I think it was 30 years experience. He says, we're a permitting agency. Fill out the proper paper and fill it out correctly. You're going to get the permit to fill in the wetlands.
Do you believe Shell Point could be built today under the current regulations, state and federal regulations?
Yes, I believe that. You know why? Because I saw it done during the time I'm living here in Wakulla County. I saw a huge wetland filled in outside of Miami. Okay? Couldn't believe it was happening. All legal. Yes. And if the people here want to protect their wetlands, they have to do it themselves. They cannot rely on the state. I'm finished.
Okay, I'm going to let Jerry speak.
I just had a
Mr.
response
Morton.
to his comment.
Okay, I think okay, go ahead, Commissioner.
Just for you, Commissioner Kessler, when you voted yes to allow the power company to fill in wetlands and allow the power company to build in the wetlands, were you voting for them to have a negative impact to the wetlands?
You know, Mr. Thomas, there are times when wetlands are going to be filled in. I am not anti-filling in all wetlands, but our state has a dismal record of protecting our wetlands, of protecting our springs. Look around as what has happened to Florida's environment during this last 30 years. Our state has not protected us. And that's the answer. If we want protection, we have to provide it ourselves.
So in this example that was brought up, and I'm asking questions about now, we voted 5-0. We all agreed to allow the power company to move forward with that decision. They filled in wetlands. They built equipment in the wetlands, and we all agreed to it. That came as a result of an application for a state permit. Through that process, the applicant had to properly mitigate the wetlands. For those at home that may not use the word mitigation all the time, that means that they had to create a positive that outweighed the negative that they were creating. So when they brought that to us, they had already been approved by the state. The mitigation plan had already been worked out to the point that we as a board, 5-0, felt comfortable with them doing that. And even you could have still voted no at that meeting, but even you understood that they were causing a positive more so than a negative. Yes, they filled in some wetlands, but they had to mitigate in order to do that. That entire procedure was worked out at the state level to the point that we were comfortable with it, and the staff recommendation was comfortable with it. So there are certainly examples where wetlands can be filled in. No one has the ability to just arbitrarily say, I prefer to build in the wetlands when they have enough uplands they could build on. But if they do cause a negative impact, they have to mitigate it to offset that impact. And so we need to make sure the people at home know that we are not eliminating wetlands protection. We're eliminating an additional layer of government. The wetlands will still continue to be protected.
We are going to mitigate our wetlands in Wakulla County out of Wakulla County, because Wakulla County doesn't have large mitigation banks where we can say we're going to fill in 20 acres here or whatever it is and permitted legally by the state and then turn around and preserve something in Wakulla County. Ain't going to happen. We don't have that. So what's going to happen is in Jefferson County there's going to be a mitigation for Wakulla County, and Jefferson County is going to have X number of acres or whatever the ratio is that are going to be protected because Wakulla County just filled in wetlands. We don't have the same situation as other places that have mitigation banks in their thing. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about 10s and 20s and more of acreage, 100+ acres, being impacted by proper permits that the state allows. I'm talking about state allowing permitting that does damage to valuable resources. They have a track record of allowing that to happen. And I'm saying for myself and for the citizens of Wakulla County, the only way we're going to be sure of protecting our natural resources here in our county is if we step up to the plate, which we did, and now you want to dismantle it.
Nice try on trying to paint the picture that this is going to be shifted to Jefferson County. We just received a legislative appropriation, and we're in the process of purchasing land at Shell Point that will be used. County Administrator, how much land will be purchased as a result of that that's in the wetlands that will be set aside as conservation easement and be available for wetlands credits?
Roughly about 48 acres.
And that land is being purchased from state money that we received and is not a burden on the taxpayers, but that land will be available to mitigate those if we need them.
Howard, it sounds to me like if the county were to adopt the state standard, say whatever the state rule is our rule too, then we'd have local wetlands protection. Is that correct?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I don't think if I'm hearing you correctly, I'm saying the state has a dismal record of protecting wetlands. Over the last 30 years plus, our state has failed us.
Okay, what I'm saying
and I'm saying that with the state failing us, how could I possibly say, yes, the state, I'm going to copy what the state has, and I'm going to say, whatever the state has, we're not going to do any more. That's obscene because we're allowing our environment to disappear and be harmed in front of our noses.
That's not what I was saying. What I was saying is if we adopted their standard, if they didn't do anything about it, then we could. Wouldn't that resolve your whole issue then? Or is the issue really the buffers?
The buffers are hugely important.
Okay. So a buffer around a swamp on the north side of Crawford is the same importance as a buffer around
I'm not saying every... you know that.
But okay, I'm glad you agree. The ordinance does not differentiate that.
Understand, but
Okay.
it's better than nothing.
I
Okay,
think
it's
it's
better, well, you think it's worse.
We'll agree to disagree.
And that's why it was called a model ordinance.
Right now, today, if we look at the land that has yet to be developed, that is buildable, can be built upon, it equals about less than 2.5% of the area land mass in our county. 2.5% is available for construction. Now, in that 2.5%, a lot of that land is in wetlands, and you're not going to just be able to arbitrarily build in the wetlands. So if we subtract that wetlands area out, we're talking about 1 to 1.5% of the area of land mass in this county. We have a unique, wonderful place that we live in that has in excess of 65% of our county protected by state and federal ownership and is never going to be built on. I like to hear these examples about Tampa and South Florida. We're not those places. We have protections in place that will never allow us to be like them. This 1 to 1.5% that is available, that's a very, very small impact to the ecosystem.
Did you include the new FEMA regulations in that?
No, that doesn't even take...
Actually, with the new FEMA regulations, there will be no developer who will develop a subdivision, in my opinion, because you're going to have to build it up off the ground, and you can't develop and build up off the ground. Individuals can build up the ground because they have the money maybe to do that. But as a developer, you're just not going to be able to develop a subdivision and all the homes 20 feet off the ground. They can be from 3 feet to 20 feet. But the FEMA regulations are going to add to, they're going to reduce from Ralph's 1.5%. We're going to be a county of nothing but the wealthy, because only the wealthy can afford to build in that capacity. Basically, if you look at the coast, there's probably not 100 lots on the coast that you can build on today. And if you look at the marsh on the coast, most of those lots they could be a mile from the Gulf itself. They're close to the marsh, but they're a mile from the Gulf. Of course, the marsh is the nursery for the Gulf and so forth. But if I understood Howard correctly, you would probably rather have Shell Point just go away. Is that correct?
What are you saying, Commissioner Moore? I mean,
Well, you mentioned that Shell Point wasn't. We say that it's probably built in a marsh. It was probably built on a wetland. It has canals and all of that. So under today's conditions, it would be very difficult for anyone in Shell Point to build. Basically, what we're talking about is the perception of what people may do. It's not what they have done behind us. A few people may have done some things they shouldn't. A very, very, very few people. But what we're talking about is the perception, and we're trying to say that 100% of the people going forward are going to damage the wetlands, or they're going to build within 25 feet of the wetlands. So it's nothing more than a perception of the damage. There's no actual damage that you can say that will happen. It's nothing. It's just the perception of what may happen. And I just don't. I'm going to vote to repeal it myself.
Well, I'm going to also be voting to repeal it, and it was a year ago. I was actually the commissioner that made the motion to completely repeal it. I believe that citizens should have full use of their property. Many of these citizens have mortgages on this property. They're paying taxes on every acre of it, and they should have full use of it. And there's been several cases presented to where the present ordinance makes it to where citizens who purchased these small lots with the intention of building a home, they are not able to build the home and not able to fulfill that purchase. Our ordinance has made some of these lots completely not buildable, even though they bought them with the intention to build, but they're still paying taxes on every foot of it. Many of these are paying mortgages on them. Many of these, there's some lots that was presented to us to where some citizens even cashed out their retirement in order to buy that property to build their dream home, and they're not able to do that, and they're not able to get back the money that they spent. This issue throughout all this has been trying to say it's about the wetlands, but really it boils down to 75 feet of the dry land that borders it. It's dry land that citizens should be allowed to use, and I think the state has adequate enforcement in place in order to do it. The majority of the counties defer back to the state. Since the wetlands ordinance has been enacted, the state has strengthened their standards to where now it mimics a lot of what our ordinance was. Whenever an ordinance was initially enacted, the state that didn't govern isolated wetlands, but now the state does. So, as it was said earlier, our wetlands ordinance is just another layer of government on top of it. But also, when it comes to lawsuits, the fact that we have our own wetlands ordinance, we're first in line if someone decides they want to sue. But if we repeal this wetlands ordinance tonight, which is what I'm going to be voting to do, if we repeal this wetlands ordinance tonight, we're still going to have wetlands protections according to the state standard, and then if someone wants to sue according to those, then they're suing the state and not Wakulla County. So I think this, to me, it is a liability issue, and I will be voting here shortly to repeal this, so the citizens who have been waiting for so long to use the property that they bought and purchased intended to use, that they would be able to hopefully pursue their dream. And I believe they can do that, and our wetlands will still be protected. Do we have any more discussion amongst commissioners before we vote? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor for repealing?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion, the wetlands ordinance is repealed with a 4-to-1 vote.
When is that effective, Heather?
It has to be filed with the Department of State within 10 days and is effective upon filing.
Okay. We'll move on to our next agenda item, be the sign ordinance.
Louis?
Commissioners, this item is to consider adoption of an ordinance amending Section 618J of the Land Development Code pertaining to election and free expression signs.
I'll move option 1.
Second.
We have a motion made and second to for option 1 to conduct a public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance amending Section 6-18 of the Land Development Code pertaining to election and free expression signs. Do we have any citizens to speak on this? Okay, we don't have any citizens to speak on it. Is there any discussion amongst commissioners?
What item are we on right now?
We are on
Signs,
the
political
sign
signs.
ordinance.
Allowing the 4x4 sign.
Oh, right. So this would allow more political signs, bigger, as many as you want on your private property?
My understanding, Howard, right now, 4x4 signs like you see, I guess, I haven't put any up yet, but I'm sure I probably will. The ordinance we had that we adopted recently didn't allow those signs, correct? And they also had to be on private property.
That's correct. The 4x4 signs on residential property would not have been allowed. This changes that.
Basically, it goes back to the way it was last time you ran or whatever.
Right now, before we take action and before there's a vote on this at a public, what's the size of a political sign that can be put on a piece of private property?
Commercial or residential?
Residential.
2x2, 4 square feet.
Okay.
4.5 square feet.
4.5.
Yeah. So this increases it 4 times.
Okay,
Sort
more
of.
than that.
Roughly.
Okay. And you can have as many of them as you want. And so for me, right now, we're increasing the number of these political signs when it seems like the majority of the people in our county don't really want to have an overabundance of political signs. I think we're going backwards instead of forwards.
I think this isn't so much about increasing the number other than increasing the size. And I'm for increasing the size to the 4x4 signs because a year and a half ago, whenever I ran, I had many citizens say that the little signs, as they're driving down the road, they're not able to view them, but the 4x4 signs they're able to view better. So to me, there's some people, for visibility reasons, they're able to view the 4x4 signs better than they are the little signs. And so this is a matter of the size of the sign and not necessarily the number. I mean, you can have if you stay with just a little 2x2 sign, you could still blanket the county with 2x2 signs. So this issue is about the size of the sign.
I am sympathetic to what you said, Howard. I feel the same way personally, I think another point was to just be consistent with surrounding
I got
counties.
you. Yeah, I got you. This, for me, it just feels like more sign pollution. We're encouraging it.
I don't like political signs either.
Sign
Basically,
pollution.
this takes us back to where we were, say, in 210.
Was there a size limit in the previous ordinance?
It was 32 square feet and non-residential. But yeah, there was not a size.
We're not going that. We're not going that.
We're not going that big.
We're not going back that far.
We're going to 16 square feet.
But you can put up the 4x4s so long as they are no more than 6 feet off the ground, and political signs do have to be removed within 30 days.
I know this sounds ludicrous for politicians to be voting on political signs. Point well taken, but here we are.
Well, do we have any more discussion amongst commissioners before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion passes 4-1.
PUD amendment, Louis?
Yes, this is a revision to the PUD district standards in our land development codes. These are needed updates. Just briefly, they separate a lot of the detail requirements that were previously required from the general conceptual PUD requirements. It also clarifies when certain amenities will need to be built in PUDs, and also clarifies what qualifies as major and minor modifications.
I'll move option 1 with a couple changes. Louis, help me through this.
All right.
On page 11 of 15, if you guys are so inclined to follow along.
Are you in an attachment right now?
Yes, attachment 2, page 11 of 15.
Give me a second here.
Who's that? Katie?
Katie?
Is that Katie's phone?
Yeah.
What section is that in?
Section 4 PUD or SC PUD development standards. I'm sorry, 5 transportation plan. Section 5.55, I assume.
What page?
Page 11 of
Page
15.
11 of 15.
Item 5.
And that's attachment 2.
This was, and I talked with Louis about this. I agree 100% with what he's doing. It majorly revises the way we do PUDs, which have been often abused in the past, I think. And he's going to start with a concept plan. Then when you actually get ready to do something, you come back and either request a site plan or a preliminary plat, which the way it is now, you just do all that at one time, which doesn't really make a lot of sense in my mind. So anyway, on the transportation plan, it says an analysis of impacts to adopted level of service of transportation facilities for each phase of development. I want to take adopted levels of service out, because theoretically you could get a PUD zoning and not even start building until 5 years ago, and you need to look at the level of service at that time and not later. And I think Louis agreed with my suggestion on that one.
Yeah, I agree.
So, are you in attachment 2?
Yes, sir.
And you're on page 11 of 15?
Correct.
Okay.
You still have to do a still have to do an analysis of impacts to public transportation facilities, but it just takes out the reference to the adopted levels of service, because you don't know at what point do you need to look at you know what I mean? The level of service could be totally different based on the number of cars on the road now than it is 5 years from now. Okay, now we got that out of the way. Page 9 of 15 in attachment 2.
And what section of the ordinance is that?
I don't have I didn't print the whole thing out. Hold on, just let me.
555.
I do have one citizen to speak on this whenever we...
Okay.
Paragraph 2.
Let me get through my motion first.
Are you passing, Bob? Okay, then I don't have any citizens speaking.
This is
Thank you,
page
Bob.
9 of 15, you said?
Yes, sir, 9 of 15. Towards the bottom, you see it where it says existing conditions map?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to take under subsection C, subsection I, all right, I'd like to move that underneath boundary survey. Basically, you do a boundary survey, and the boundary survey has to show the location of existing property and right-of-way lines, blah, 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 blah. And also, Louis, you said you'd like to add within 500 feet of the property lines, right?
Yes.
Okay. Brenda, are you getting all this?
No, I don't have these attachments, so I'll write down what you said, but
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Most people. No, you're not alone. So basically, the reason why is the boundary survey is what really should contain right-of-way lines and stuff like that. Under subsection C of the features map, I'd like to revise it to say a topographic map showing for the site and parcels within 500 feet of the site. And what I took out was the part saying it's prepared by a surveyor or an engineer. And the reason why is, since it's just a preliminary plan, it's not your development plan, you can go to the property appraiser's office where he has 2-foot contours that you can get for free that are LiDAR, and those are more than sufficient for a preliminary concept. And Louis agreed with that 100%, right, Louis?
Yes, we can work with that.
Thank you. All right, under the same existing condition maps, sub-item CIII, where it says existing topographic contours shown at a contour interval of 1 foot, we want to change that to an interval of 2 feet. That way they can use the LiDAR things. This is just, I know that's what was in it. A topo survey, as Wade can tell you, he loves them because they're very, very expensive. And this is just meant to be a preliminary plan. When they actually go back to do something with the property, like a plat, then they'll have to go do the 1-foot topo survey and pay Wade. But this, I agree 100% with the path Louis is going down with this. This is really a much better way than what we're doing it now.
Louis, would you mind reading in what these changes are and what the text would say, just so we can make sure that we know what we're all voting on?
Sure, if you're ready for that.
Brittany?
All right, starting with section 555, paragraph 2 on page 9 of 15, 2B, it would say, a boundary survey and legal description of the site reviewed and prepared by a surveyor registered in the state. Underneath that you'd have I, which would say the location of existing property and right-of-way lines and pavement widths for all private and public property, streets, buildings, water courses, transmission lines, sewers, bridges, culverts, drain pipes, water mains, and public utility easements within 500 feet. Then we'd go to...
Excuse me.
Oh, go ahead.
You were on page 9?
Yes, I flipped to page, that continued on to page 10.
Howard, you want me to give you these? I
have it do you have it already?
I have it highlighted, just the individual pages if you want to. Let me.
I got it in front of me, but when we start off, it's like, can't keep up.
Okay, paragraph C would say a topographic map showing for the site and parcels within 500 feet of the site, colon.
Okay.
And then it would pick up with, on page 10, with subparagraphs 2 and 3 there. They would become 1 and 2. Subparagraph 3, which is I, would state existing topographic contours shown at contour interval of 2 feet.
What page are you on now?
Page 10 at the top.
Okay, and so read what the change is. Read how it would be.
Let's see. Continue going back to page 9 under features map. It would be a topographic map showing for the site and parcels within 500 feet of the site.
Okay, 1 second. Going back. What do you want me to be on this page that you put me back to?
Oh, bottom of page 9.
Bottom of page. Hold on for a second. Okay.
Paragraph C.
2C. Okay, there we go. Features map?
Features map, okay. It would say a topographic map showing for the site and parcels within 500 feet of the site, colon. Okay, then we'd skip to page 10.
Right there, hold on a second, Louis. Don't we also there need GIS map?
The 2-foot contours would suffice for that.
Well, but sometimes you need to call those out in PUDs. Is that GIS mapping and or LiDAR service is acceptable?
Yeah, we could put that.
That way it tells the developer what is acceptable.
Okay. Yeah, that would be probably under I on page 10, where it says existing topographic contours. So
Just explain the gist of what I'm trying
Well, no, I think I'm agreeing with, or understanding that it really makes it easier, but in a good way, to accomplish at least the preliminary things, and we still have to go back to, let's say, the 1-foot contours when we're doing it. I got all of that. What I think I'd like to see, though, is for Louis to do a strikeout with an add-in so that we can see exactly what the new thing is going to be and what we're striking out on all of these changes, and can we maybe just bring it back at the next meeting?
Is that going to throw a wrench in your timeline for advertising and everything, or can we just continue it and be okay?
I mean, we can prepare the strike through and underline
Without having to start
without
over?
any problem for the next meeting. I think we can get that for
Is
you.
that okay, Heather? We don't have to
I
start
don't know
all
if we have to
over?
re-advertise it or anything.
Continue it to the next meeting.
That's fine, Howard. I'll change my motion then to
It
continue
sounds
this.
good. I like what you're doing with a lot of
Second.
these ideas.
So we have the,
No, I don't think there's substantive changes.
Did you get that, Brittany?
All that for
So-
that, right?
we have the motion and a second to continue this to the next meeting. Okay, all in favor of the motion? Well, hold on. Well, see, Bob, you didn't want to speak.
Oh,
right?
you
Keep
don't
going,
want
okay. All right, all in favor of the motion?
Hold on, and the next meeting is August 4th in this room, beginning at 6 p.m.
That's part of the motion.
This is part of the motion, August 4th in this room, 6 p.m.
So modified.
And seconded.
And the motion made second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
I'll move consent. We're finally there.
All right. Let's go ahead and have a vote on the consent. Then after that, we're going to break for just a few minutes because we've got a whole other meeting to go through after that. All right. So if I can get a motion on the consent agenda.
Move.
I'd like to know a little bit more about number 8.
We're going to get into that after.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
now,
we have some items that were pulled.
Are you wanting to pull 8?
No. We're already done with the agenda. You can't pull an item now.
Consent?
Yeah, you already done with it.
We already approved the agenda. We'll
Talk about it under discussion.
about that.
Can't pull it.
Good enough.
Huh?
You're approving the consent agenda right now?
Yeah.
As amended.
Howard pulled 2
amended.
items.
You can still pull another item under this time.
Yes, I agree.
Even though we've approved the agenda, you can still pull an item off consent?
I mean, we're still in an advertised meeting, so
Commissioner Moore, you want to pull number 8?
you want to pull number 8?
No, if you'll,
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
you know where I'm coming from.
Yep.
So you don't want to pull it, and we're still good to vote on it with 8 in there, right? Okay.
I'm gonna pull it. I'm gonna pull number 8.
I didn't realize we could do that. I thought once you approve the agenda, you could
Okay,
change.
so
I'll pull number 8. Let's
All right,
make-
Commissioner Thomas is pulling consent item number 8. So that'll be 3 items we'll pull, but so the amended consent agenda, can I get a motion second?
So moved.
We got
Second.
motions made in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to break for about 5 or 8 minutes, and then we're going to come back because we still got a whole lot of business to cover. Thank you.
I still think we'll be done
If we're gonna discuss it, we might as well pull it.
I think I want to get
You're gonna have to play the video back. I thought you remember how this thing works.
You don't expect me to remember for a week.
I told you that. We could have done it out all
Hardly anybody left, Jerry. Hardly anybody left. I told you. Thank you.
No.
That should be way easier than the ones we just went through.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure you can because there's been a time before when I was sitting over there.
Hey.
On their free, I was sitting over there, and I was running across, and it was only only a few people left. And Mike Stewart was still on the board. I think
How you doing, lady?
How
many dollars is that? 20.
If you looked at him, he's like, really?
I'm good. I haven't seen it. Where you been?
It's still in the preliminary trial requirements to go.
You should be able to step here. Lady out here. Not
Who's that? Jack?
Brother's phone didn't
How you helping to read it? What you
He had to
doing?
clock out.
Okay, good.
Grant purchasing and contracting. Purchasing and
Yeah. Okay, well, she did need some, so she can sort of have some.
It should be clear.
That's good, you can do that. Hey, David. Because I put it on his.
That's only because you asked the question. He was trying to be nice to you.
No, he was not. He wanted to know something too, I guess.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did. Whatever damn reason he pulled it off.
This ain't fair. This has got to be a two-way street here.
You wish. I agree with you. I agree with you. Let me tell you, my most important thing is...
Done, Dave. Remember what I meant? Talk to him. All we got to do is next week. Hear that letter? I think we can walk this thing right around.
Yeah, I want to do that. I want a progress report.
Yeah, that would surprise me, yeah.
I don't care about the meeting progress. I just need a...
Well, no, we got to have the meeting for approve the letter.
Okay. All right. We get out of your crowd.
I just copy the whole thing over.
That's all it is.
How many dollars is
Well, I
that?
hope we get everybody there, because if they showed up tonight, they might have plans.
I have to watch what they were using. You have the votes
We're not doing this.
Almost to you.
What do you do?
If the consent goes fast.
Tax bill?
It's a cost of doing service for those guys. We don't have a ball. The problem is,
Unless you want to add some impervious surface to it, to use some stormwater and use some landscape. That'll work. Crap. Something like that.
The problem is, when it was passed before, it was passed without any cushion. Dirt was politically charged. So we're just trying to get rid of it.
That ain't gonna fly.
What's up, man? Yeah, one down.
So, yeah, I mean, I just asked to pass.
What's your sentiment on the vote? What's your sentiment on the vote? What's your sentiment on the vote?
We got the three consent items that's full, but then we'll go on into the planning and zoning.
So that's the reason I don't know. This is
This is true. Because they want to find, same way they look at they couldn't find him. They're censored by Georgia because he told me that my money was I did told me the money. Hell, my secretary couldn't keep up with what I was doing. I tell you about I told me when we
And reconvene. Okay, we've already voted to approve the consent agenda. The first item that was...
I'll start. You may start it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Item tab number 8, this agenda item requests board approval of preliminary rate resolution for fire protection services. The rate does not change from this year, which is $75 per year, and we're asking for approval to move forward.
Motion to approve.
Second. I just wanted to pull it in case we had any discussion. We had the ability to deal with it.
That's all right. My only question was there any increase? And since there wasn't, I approve of it. I'm ready to go.
This motion made second to keep it as it was last year. Same. All right. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes.
Next item is tab number 27. This agenda item requests board approval to schedule and advertise a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance providing for a referendum election to be held November 4th, 2014, for the purpose of determining whether the county charter should be amended to require the BoCC adopt a fund balance policy. And let it be noted that we currently have a fund balance policy. The Charter Review Committee, they wanted to make sure that there was a placeholder in the charter that spoke to the fund balance policy moving forward. So even though we have one, they recognize that, but they also wanted that to be incorporated with the charter, so it's forever it'll forever be there.
I'll make a motion so I can hear what Howard's concerns are.
Okay.
So we had a motion, and who seconded it?
You doing option 1?
Yeah. Motion to approve. Yeah.
Second.
My thing is, I just look at it as unnecessary. Okay, and we have a fund balance policy right now, and my concerns are going to be the same for the next item as well. I just feel it's maybe tying the hands of the board, and that's my concerns on both of them.
Are we compelled, as far as the Charter Review Committee, they tell us what they want to put on the referendum?
You are compelled to approve that.
We cannot say yes, we will, and no, we won't. Right?
You're compelled to approve it.
So it's a pass-through. We have to do this.
And this
And
is...
we don't, and staff does not have a issue with the fund balance policy or the debt policy.
I make a motion to approve.
I already did.
Oh, you did.
And this is like the other referendum. This is for it to go on the ballot for the citizens at home to vote whether or not they want this policy or not.
This is adopting the public hearing, so that on August the 4th, when we have the public hearing, then it'll be the final one.
Okay.
Right.
This is the motion
Just
to have the
request the
public
public
hearing.
hearing.
to-
Do you have this, Howard, I'm sorry, if you have the same concerns, can I go ahead and make my motion to approve tab 28 also, or do you want to talk about it separately?
Let's
Okay.
just do a separate
All
one,
right.
that way we're good.
Okay, and it goes to both of the concerns at that level and also the level of having it during this election period as opposed to the presidential election year.
Did I get a second on it?
Yeah, I second.
Howard, okay, so if we don't have any more discussion, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
I'll move the next approval on the next item too.
Second.
Schedule a public hearing for the fund
This is
balance
the-
policy.
Debt policy?
Correct,
And this is the same thing, just to vote to have the public hearing in order for it to go on the ballot?
correct.
Okay. We have a motion, and a second, who seconded it?
I did.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion on this one amongst commissioners? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, 4-1. All right, that's all of our items that was pulled from the consent item. Now we move into our planning and zoning.
Louis?
Hold on a second, let me just get through. This is a quasi-judicial matter. This is a final plat, FP 1403 Stingray Shores subdivision. In accordance with Section 24.01 of the Code, each commission member needs to disclose any comment they may have received from interested parties regarding this application.
I talked to Wade earlier and asked him what in the world this was, and he told me so.
Commissioner Moore, any
You talked to
any
anybody about this?
disclosures?
No.
None for me.
None for me.
What are you doing?
Been distracted.
That's okay.
All right,
Any ex parte communications to disclose?
No, none concerning this.
Okay. If there's anyone here who's going to provide any information on the application, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Why don't you quickly explain what it is, Louis? I'll make a motion.
All right, it's a final plat for Stingray Shores. It's basically a lot line adjustment between a platted subdivision and a lot adjacent to it to correct some encroachments.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And accepting the staff recommendation. We got to remember that, Howard.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion made and second to approve. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, next one. Louis?
Yes, this next one is for a short form subdivision. It's basically for a two-lot subdivision. It's currently 56 acres. This would create a 46-acre lot and a 10.9-acre lot.
Motion to approve.
Hold on.
Second.
Approve staff.
Any ex parte communications regarding this item?
No.
No, ma'am. None.
None.
Okay. Anyone who's going to provide any information on this item, you're still sworn.
Why you got to swear at Wade? I'll make a motion to approve and accept the staff report.
Second.
Have a motion made and second. Any discussion amongst commissioners? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
I believe we're going to do the add-on item next on general business.
Yes. On the general business, if it pleases the commission, there's an add-on item that is also one of the referendums that also would like the other two, and since we have a lot of members still here that was on the charter review committee, if it pleases the commission, we'll go ahead and do the add-on item first for general business.
And Chris said he's hungry, so.
Cookies.
Cookies. All right, this agenda item requests board approval to schedule and advertise a public hearing to consider adopting ordinance providing for a referendum election to be held on November 4th, 2014 for the purpose of determining whether the county charter should be amended to require persons elected to county commission provide a voter registration card and oath of residency declaring their intent to reside in the district from which elected within 30 days.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made and second. I do have one citizen to speak on
I
this.
want to talk about it a little bit too, if I could.
Okay.
David, go ahead, and I'll let the citizen, and then we'll get the commissioner.
Okay. Also understand the initial language that the Charter Review Committee put through on this particular subject as it requires to residency was determined by our law firm to not be valid and be able to withstand a constitutional muster. Excuse me. It would not pass the constitutional muster.
That was the CRC.
The CRC's attorney, not our
Just
attorney.
explaining to our attorney.
That's
I
right.
know,
Well,
but I know legal words.
Thank you,
too.
Randy. Anyway, so therefore, the CRC vice chair worked with the attorney to come up with some language that would be defendable. Therefore, that is what's before you, and what will happen tonight if you guys proceed with approving this. The CRC will reconvene sometime between now and August 4th to approve this language, but if prior to it going to the August 4th meeting, if they say no, they do not like this language, therefore they'll drop it and it'll come back in a couple of years or whenever it comes back.
But
Okay?
you've already met with them and they pretty much agreed to that language.
Well, exactly what I said.
Some of the
We met
members
with
have.
Some of the members.
Well,
I've only met with one of the members on this, so
It
therefore...
has to be unanimous, is that
That's
correct?
right.
No,
Well,
10.
no, just 10 members, 10 members. So therefore, I just wanted to put that caveat in there, full disclosure, okay?
What if
we
there's not
need
a
to-
quorum at the CRC? What do they do then? It's just a majority?
Yeah,
No.
No, it's not 10. 10.
So what if only 11 show up, or only 10 show up, all 10 have to vote for it? then?
All 10, it has to be unanimous then.
So we need to modify the motion to make it contingent upon being ratified?
No.
Well, what's all of your votes tonight on the CRC
Or
item?
public hearing?
Are to schedule the public hearing, which you'll have on August 4th.
And if they
So-
don't vote to accept what we're saying,
Yeah.
then basically it gets put off 2 more years.
I got you.
And you want to let the citizens...
Yeah, I've got one citizen I'd like to go in. John Shuff, come on up.
I have a question for John, if I could, John.
John, if you don't mind coming on up, thank you.
John, basically my question is, given how watered down this issue is now, is it even worth pursuing? I mean, is it really worth...
You know, I think it is.
I mean, basically you're asking...
I had the very same thought.
You're asking somebody to
there's
sign a
concern
piece
there.
of paper that means nothing, saying that they're going to live in their district, which they're legally required to do anyway.
Well, you're right, but you know, one thing it does do, and you know, I guess I kind of just thought about it, and the exact same thoughts you had, but I finally just came to the realization that we don't really have any residency real requirement. Nothing's written down anywhere. And part of the reason is this case that shot down. We felt like we had a pretty good referenda item written the way it was.
I agree.
But there was a case, Grassy versus the state, that happened in Broward County. Somebody signed up in District 3 and couldn't run for some reason, and then turned right around and signed up in District 4. Somebody tried to prosecute him for doing that. And criminally, and he went back and won. Well, the court ruled, from what I understand, or what we were told, very definitively in saying that the way the Constitution is written, it speaks very clearly to timing, and that residency can only be required on election. And what we wanted to do was have it 6 months prior to qualifying. So you would spend a little time in your district, and you actually maybe knew a few people instead of just bouncing around wherever was the most politically convenient place to run. But that was shot down, and that took kind of the meat out of what we wanted to write. But I guess I've kind of consoled my thoughts about it anyway. Is that if nothing else, we will have something that, you signed this, you said you were going to live in your district, your voter registration card shows what your address, what you said your address is going to be, but you're never there. So we can prosecute that person in the newspaper if nothing else.
Doesn't when a candidate runs, doesn't it go into that elections office and,
Not at the
Here.
time of qualifying, only when they're elected.
is
So
that right?
I could run in your district, and that's fine, but if I lose, no harm, no foul. If I win, I have to theoretically move to your district, which I guess even with this, you could
still.
I could always
I mean,
rent a house
and
in
and
Howard
that's one of the things we're going to deal with at the meeting. That a lot of people are going to say, well, there's no way you can legislate honesty or forthrightness. But this does push it a little bit farther, and in my opinion, it's better than nothing at all.
I agree. But at what cost? How much is it going to cost to have this on the referendum? If it's
nothing.
Okay, that's fine.
How enforceable is it if it goes on a because this is
public business.
Now the concept, I'm fully supportive of the concept. I believe if someone runs for that district, they should live in that district that they're running to represent. But I know the statewide, this has been an issue with things statewide to the point that this year there was one of the Senate committees that was actually trying to push to fix it statewide, but even then they've got issues at that level.
They ran into constitutional issues.
Yes, sir.
So just as we did, and part of it was that they wanted to legislate timing, and they could not do that because the ruling in the state constitution didn't allow the legislators to legislate the timing of the issue.
Tied the hands.
So yeah.
So it's not
which
it's fair,
by
but
extension tied our hands.
So in my understanding that there's really no teeth in this, and that we already have...
Other than in the world of public
perception.
Yeah,
if I signed a piece of paper saying I lived here, somebody could go after me and say, well, you don't live here.
And so I
That's
don't
something
have
written down, and it's not just words floating through the air.
So that's fine. If the people want to vote for that, I'm still on the issue of general, presidential election versus this. I think
Maybe not so much on this one, though. This one's not quite as important.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Right.
And this is to hold the public hearing so there would still be a public hearing beyond tonight in order to decide whether or not this is going to go on the ballot, right? Okay, so this would be just like the other two.
And let me get this straight, Heather. If they go back, if we do this tonight, they go back to their meeting with Mr. Russell over there, and they decide they don't like our language, it's not going to be on the ballot this year. It'll be 2 years.
Don't have enough time. There's not enough time.
Right. Okay. So that's really balls in y'all's court.
That's right.
Right. Okay.
Balls in their
Well,
court.
it's still coming to a public hearing, so things can be modified
That's
at
right.
a public hearing.
Well, when are y'all meeting, John? Next time?
I don't know what the consensus is yet. It's like we got 3 dates, one of the 21st, the 24th, and the 29th, I believe.
The reason I say that, if you meet before the public hearing,
Responses.
huh?
I'm still waiting on some of the responses
Okay.
from the members.
If y'all do meet before the public hearing, I don't know if that's possible, and then you decide you don't like it, then we at least don't have to waste everybody's time with a public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Heather?
Yeah, we may just vote it down because we haven't been able to get together.
Bring the weekend version back.
Well, the weekend version may get voted down just because everybody's. I mean, it was a 14-0 item with everybody. Everybody wanted some fairly stiff residency requirements, and we worked hard on it.
Yeah.
But
in order
Constitution got us.
in order to move things forward, we can vote to as for right now, I'll vote to have the public hearing, and then that gives y'all time to go back and consult it, right?
Right.
So is there any discussion on the Charter Committee about any kind of strategy of having more or less items that, if you have 4 items versus 3 items, is a better chance to explain that to the public? Has that discussion happened on the Charter Review Committee?
Not quite that specifically, but yeah, generally I mean, at one point we thought we might have upwards of 8 items, and we just kind of narrowed it down to what we thought was.
That's a good point, Howard. They might meet and say, you know what, the other 3 are so important, let's go ahead and just pull this one off.
Bringing that out. If
That's
they want to
completely possible.
They may
for sure.
decide to do that.
focus on what they
Right,
really
exactly.
want to have passed instead of having a barrage of things.
Good point.
At the end of the day, there are state laws that do govern residency.
Not really.
Yeah, I know. if
You're
we
right. They
try
did
to-
try this last year, but
they did try this year to strengthen that, but they run up on that wall, and it may be the same wall we hit up ourselves. You know, it's just a matter of honesty and burden of proof, I guess, on the person running to do the right thing and live in their district.
it's a little harder to write, to write something down and have somebody notarize it, and it's just to let it go through the air.
Right. Okay.
Thank
Is
you.
there any more discussion amongst commissioners? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Next agenda item under general business is tab number 10.
What dates do you want?
This is request board approval to schedule 2 public hearing dates to adopt the FY 2014-15 tentative and final budget and adoption of the millage rate, and I would option number 1 is
Move option
preferred.
1 at
Second.
5:01 instead of 6:01.
That's fine with me.
All right.
Just save staff time. Huh?
Are we moving the entire meeting? Or
No, it's just this particular one item.
It's
Is
a
it-
Tuesday.
That's as a special
Yeah, it's
workshop,
Right.
special
That's
meeting,
fine.
so I'd rather have it at 5:01.
Yeah.
I'd rather have it at
That's
4:01, to
fine.
be honest with you.
Second, yep.
Okay.
We have a motion made second. The more discussion amongst commissioners? All in favor of the...
Hold on. What?
why couldn't we move?
I mean, we could we have it earlier in the day?
No, it has to be at 5 o'clock.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
5:01.
5:01. All right. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Don't say later, Brittany.
Next, David.
Item tab number 17. This is the request board acceptance of the Wakulla County Charter Review Commission's recommendations relating to revisions of the Home Rule Charter, such as the last item we had from the Charter Review Committee, the report and
Motion to approve. We've already
the
pretty
report
much
will
done it.
also be approved at the meeting that they have between now and August 4th as well. This is the President's report, and it has to be approved by the committee as
So
well.
moved.
Have a motion made and second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next one, David.
Next agenda item. This agenda item requests board approval of a speed limit reduction on Shadeville Highway at Cager-Posey Road intersection to increase safety.
So moved. And believe it or not, this was my idea.
Second.
You don't believe that.
Okay.
Brent?
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion amongst commissioners?
No, okay, no citizens.
This came out of the
I've-
CTST meeting, by the way.
Right, so in the...
I don't have any citizen cards for
Okay,
anyone.
so in
to
the
speak on.
items, in the item, it talks about fatalities. Have we had fatalities at this intersection? And how does this intersection compare to other intersections? Do we have data like that that can be provided to the board?
I asked Helms, I don't know, Deputy Helms is obviously retired now, but I did tell him we need to have some sort of justification, and the main justification, if you look at similar intersections, like in Shadeville at Max Meets, if you look at MLK and Spring Creek Highway, all those have a reduced, even at 319 in Bloxham. You come to a major intersection, or even not a huge major intersection, but a pretty well-used intersection, the speed limit's reduced. Right now, the speed limit in front of Michelle's grocery store is 55 miles an hour.
Okay.
And there's a limited sight distance, so
Yeah, I'd like to see if it's possible, and you're involved with that when these items come, that justification is there and comparison to other intersections so that we can vote with a little more knowledge.
you're right, because I have asked many times to raise speed limits, and I think we should need the same justification to lower them as we do to raise them.
I'll take 20.
Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Number 19, you pulled that one, right?
Tab number 20, this agenda item requests board approval of the preliminary rate resolution for solid waste services. This service we got a CPI increase from Waste Pro of 2.33%. That's being passed forward and rounded so the rate will be $196 from $196 per year per dwelling unit to $199 per year per dwelling unit. This is purely a pass-through of that.
Adopt the preliminary rate resolution for solid waste services. I know nobody here wants to vote for a tax.
That's your motion?
Yes. To adopt the preliminary rate resolution.
I'll second it for discussion.
Was there a raise in commercial, or we don't have control over that anyway?
We don't have control of that.
Okay, we have a motion made and second. Discussion amongst commissioners.
I'm going to oppose it. I made a commitment not to raise taxes. This is only a few dollars, but I'm going to stick with what I told the people when they elected me.
We are
Contractually
in the
bound.
contract with Waste Pro that was signed 4 years ago. They're allowed a CPI increase. It's not gas costs more, phones cost more, things go up. This is not jacking taxes up. We're not putting this money in our pocket.
Why don't we discuss that? Because when I read it, I see may be adjusted. It's not shall be adjusted. There's a couple different places where it says that approval may be adjusted. The provider may apply for an increase. He's not required to, so he's optional. He can if he want to, and we may approve an increase. I mean, if it says may, we're under no obligation to do so. I understand that it's costing them more to operate, but it's costing every one of our citizens more to operate. It's costing every one of our staff who hasn't had a raise in 5 years. I would say let's tie this to the point where we can give our staff a raise. It's just, I'm not opposed to them getting it, but correct me if I'm wrong. When I read this, it looks like we have some discretion not to.
What's the answer on that?
I don't have a franchise contract in front of me to review that, but they may request a CPI. This is the first time they've done it since they've had the contract in.
If it's an optional thing, like Ralph is saying, that's totally different than we have to do it. I know with Brent, Cleve's contract, it's automatically built in there that the contract goes up by a CPI amount every year, right, Cleve? That is it optional in yours too? Okay.
If you'd like, I'll read this. Paragraph 12.2.2, base rate component adjustment. On October 1, 2012 and October 1 of each subsequent contract year of this agreement, the rates listed in Exhibit A may be adjusted either as an increase or a decrease based on adjustments to the CPI as defined herein. less the factor for fuel for the 12 months ending December 31st preceding each new contract year. 12.2.3, fuel rate component adjustment. Franchise may petition the Board of County Commissioners for an additional rate adjustment on the basis of increases or decreases in fuel costs as provided in this section. For purposes of this section, the base cost per gallon of diesel fuel used for calculation of the rate in Exhibit A is equal to $4 per gallon. Adjustments shall be determined as followed. So if we approve an adjustment, adjustments shall be determined as followed, but in two other places it says may. So it seems to me we have the discretion.
Is it optional? I mean,
I'd have to read the entire contract, and I don't have that with me tonight.
is this something that we need to continue to the next meeting, or do we have to act tonight?
No, this isn't your final. This is setting the preliminary rate, and you'll have a final
I'll withdraw my
public hearing
motion
on
until
that.
we have a firm answer on that then.
Well, you're
Well,
gonna...
no, you need to set the
You're not
rate. You
gonna-
can always come down off of that rate.
Yeah.
You set it, that's just like the trim, the millage. We could set that high and come back down. So you need to set it tonight, and then we can always come back down at the public hearing.
You have a public hearing on
Yeah,
it.
You're gonna
and
vote
so
for that?
that way you just come back.
You know,
Or you just...
I'm not going to vote for it down the road, so it wouldn't make sense for me to vote for it now.
Or we stick with what?
Or
What if we
you-
do nothing tonight? I'm not gonna be putting a
Well, we have to
paint
have,
into a
we have
corner
to
to
have
vote to raise
we have
taxes
to
and
have
things.
an assessment resolution. Excuse me, I'm on the wrong one. We have to have a rate resolution tonight. One way
Have
or
to
the
have a
other.
rate
Either
resolution.
it's where it's at 196 or 199.
What this does is, the 199 will go on trim, you'll have everyone will get notice, you'll have a final public hearing, you can change the rate and go down, you cannot go up.
All right, well, I'm gonna keep my motion in place then. And if we can get out of it, Ralph, I'm with you.
If we can get out of it, I'm the same here. I mean, I went into this thinking that according to it was in the contract that I'm very reluctant. I've got mixed feelings about this. I'm not for raising taxes in not even by a couple of dollars. But you know, I was before tonight's meeting, I was told and thought, you know, that it was in the contract and there was nothing we can do. But if there is optional, that makes a really big difference. Because I'm not for raising, but at the same time, well, I know we have to comply with a contract. So if it's optional, then we can stay with the 196, and then I'm for that option. But if it's not, then we're bound by the contract.
I mean, imagine if we have a contract where they have latitude, but we don't have latitude. That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, that wouldn't be a good
I would
contract.
like a definitive answer to that. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
Request it or not.
Right.
You don't have to
Right.
request a rate increase.
Yeah, and as pointed out, they did not request a rate increase last year.
Or the year
according to
before.
Or the year before.
Yeah.
2 years
And
before,
so
yeah.
according to the contract, as it's read, they could have. But I think we got to this point because we, and I'm speaking for all of us right now, were at least under the impression that they had the right to do this and we did not have the right to refuse it. If that's not the case, then it's a different ballgame, and so we really need to know when they make
We'll
this
have that. We thought we had that clarified, but we'll...
How long
we'll
is their
further clarify.
contract? 10 years?
10 years.
10 years.
I couldn't imagine them not having a compulsory CPI increase for a 10-year contract.
Yeah, that's, like I say, there's some language that we'll
They
go
don't,
back
though.
and we'll bring all that
They
to
don't.
you.
If it's in stone in the contract, we have to comply with it when that's
Well, my
that's
motion is...
different. But you know, if there's an option to keep it 196, then that's something.
My
we have to
motion is to set it at 199, then if we can bring it back later, fine, but if I don't do that now, and it turns out we have to set it at 199,
right.
then we're in a jam, so.
That's right.
Okay, so
My
it's-
original
We have no
motion
other,
stands.
that's right.
Okay, still seconded.
Yeah, so we got the motion made and second to preliminarily set it at 199, but then if we, according to your motion, if it's determined that it's...
No, that's not part of my motion.
Okay, all right.
Set it at 199, we'll deal with that later, if we
Okay.
if we can handle it.
All right. So we have the option then to later come back to 196,
That's
though,
right.
correct?
That's right.
Just like the millage rate.
This
Just like
just
the millage,
this-
same
this-
thing you do with the millage rate.
This just complies with our rate resolution tonight, and this sets it up, but we can go down but not up. Right.
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right. Okay, so we have any more discussion amongst commissioners? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Wow, haven't had that in a while.
Number 22, tab 22, Request board approval of a resolution accepting the funds.
Yeah.
Oops,
Listen to
sorry,
Brenda.
sorry.
Good job, Brenda.
Sorry.
Tab 21 is we're requesting board approval of an initial assessment resolution for a property abatement
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Next, David.
All right, let me get there. Now I can go to 22.
Motion to approve that one too. It's a boat ramp. Go ahead and describe it.
Request board approval of a resolution accepting the funds appropriated by the 2014 Florida Legislature for the Shell Point Public Access Boat Launch Facility. Also approval to spend $25,000 in matching funds for land acquisition for the Shell Point Public Access Boat Launch Facility, and approval of Preble Rish Incorporated Task Order number 203-116 in the amount of $37,550 for planning, design, engineering services, and permitting of the Shell Point Public Access Boat Launch Facility.
Motion still stands.
Second.
We're spending $25,000 to get $735,000 worth of grant money. I think it's a pretty good investment.
Basically, this includes the mitigation property also, is that correct?
Yes, the whole thing's wrapped up in all of this.
Sir?
The whole thing's wrapped up in all of
Yeah,
this.
so we pick up 50 acres of mitigation.
Yep. I'll take these deals all day long.
Me too.
Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next one, David.
Request board approval of 2015 state and federal legislative priorities.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion?
Oh, I thought these were going to be presented, not...
And you incorporated the infrastructure plan by reference,
It
right?
will be, that's by reference, yes, sir.
Howard, you wanted to read the ones
Well,
off?
no, I thought it was going to be...
Not really. We're so late, unless you guys have specifics, it's spelled out in that agenda item.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Tab number 26, this item requests board approval to release a request for proposal for legal services or extend the contract of Neighbors Giblin and Nickerson. They have originally their legal services were secured in 2009, and in 2011 they were given a 3-year contract that expires on September 30, 2014. Therefore, we can either extend the contract or bid those services out.
I just assume extend the contract unless there's any big opposition.
With this amount of money, I would be for bidding it out so we can make sure. I don't see how we can assure the public that we're getting the best bang for the buck unless we bid it out. It's been 5 years since it's been bid. I think there was only one of us on the board at that time when it was bid, and so I don't think we have anything to lose.
I'll go along with the board, but just so the citizens know, you can't bid out legal services. You can't say who's going to do it the cheapest. You have to, right? It's a RFP.
RFP process.
You have to review, you have to pick the best firm, then you have to negotiate with that firm, right, on the price. So we could end up costing more money.
It doesn't just go with the low bidder, right?
No.
No.
It goes, you know...
Because each
the
firm
criteria.
bids it differently, so.
And so that makes it a different kind of process, and if I think with the board, if the now this has been 2-3 year times, okay?
It's been renewed one time, right?
Okay, so it's been renewed once, and I'm all for, bidding out things, but because you're not going to a low bidder on something like this, it goes to, are you getting a decent bang for your buck? Are you comfortable with your legal services that are being provided? And I think that's where this type of thing goes to. If there's displeasure on the board with the legal things given, then I think there's a need to look at other companies.
We do know that it's a lot cheaper than what we were paying before. Is that correct?
According to our records, it's considerably cheaper, yes.
Than what we were paying the prior.
And that was one of the reasons that we did this. And so I'm going to speak in favor of this firm, and I hope it doesn't hurt the firm by speaking in favor of it. but it has a reputation of a quality firm. We went through an extensive search and interview process for it. I think the work that we're getting from this firm has always been in a timely manner, and I think that I personally have seen them function well. So
I don't have a passionate viewpoint on this issue. I'll go along with the majority of the board, whatever the board wants to do.
Basically, we represent the people to get the best cost for their dollar spent. To bid this out does not necessarily that we disagree with the neighbors law group. It just gives us an opportunity to look at other groups and see what kind of figures that we get, to just make sure that we are taking care of the public's money, in my mind.
Again, we cannot select the firm based on the price. I want to make sure the public understands that. This is not bidding asphalt or rock. You can't just say, well, they're cheaper than them, we want to use them. We may end up paying more money. To be honest with you, we could select a different firm, say, well, we don't like them, we like these guys better. All right. Then you go to negotiations with that person, and they say, this is how much we're going to charge you for our services. We could say, we like you so much, we're willing to pay more. I won't say where that happened in the past, Cleve, but anyway.
With all due respect, Randy, if we don't like the negotiated price, we don't have to take it. We
go
can
down to the
rebid
next
it.
lowest person, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's right. And we could end up, let's say they decide they don't even want to submit a proposal, and we get 3 law firms, and we go through, we're down to the 3rd one, and all of a sudden they still cost more than they do. Then we gotta take it.
We have to make a decision. I would like to talk a little bit about the evaluation criteria that was used last time. It was a 100-point scale. 30 points was given to experience, and 25 points was given to capability. Well, we want whoever represents us to be experienced and capable. I think capability ought to rank a little bit higher than experience.
All right, this I can tell you is going to be a long, drawn-out process just getting to that. Now, we have the deadline we're pushing up against also.
That's right.
So we have to ask them for a 3-month extension just to even get through this.
That's fine.
Okay? Now, well, it may not be fine for them. I know when I ran the Public Works, I was asked for a month extension, and my company said, stick it in your ear. So
then we move forward with the bid.
So how do we need to handle this? Obviously, everybody's going to want input on the selection criteria.
Oh, and then do wait for Dr. Kessler to come back. And
Well,
ultimately, what
we'll have to ask for a 3-month extension. If we go out to bid, we'll have to ask for a 3-month extension just to get through the bid process.
Yes.
Right. And if they don't agree with the extension, I mean, they have to agree to extension, correct?
Exactly.
So, I mean, I'm not going to be backed into a corner where we got to do it because we're out of time. We need to have ample time in order to move forward.
Well, there is time, but there is time to do it between now and the end of their contract. It is tight. I would agree with that. But if we're going to spend a month on debating before we bid it out, debating the criteria that we're going to use and all this stuff, then no, there's not enough time.
I can give you my recommended criteria.
I was going to say, is that the
2
only
minutes.
concern you got?
Only concern I have. The criteria that was used before placed 15 points on cost. I think cost should be a bigger factor there. Here's what I would recommend. Before it was 30 points experience, 25 capability, 15 cost, 15 flexibility. Let me explain flexibility. Understanding of requirements, the degree to which the proposer has responded to the purpose and scope of services to be provided, flexibility of respondent to meet the BoCC's needs, conformance in all material requests. So in that criteria, how they stack their package was as important as cost. I don't think that's as important as cost. It needs to be important, but cost needs to go higher on that list. References, 5 points, oral presentation, 10. Here's what I would recommend. 30 points capability, 25 points experience, 25 points cost, 5 points flexibility, 5 points reference, and 10 points oral.
I don't necessarily have a lot of grief with that.
I agree with that.
Repeat that one more time.
The criteria, and hopefully I...
Let me make
to
one
100%.
before you
I was going to
repeat
say,
it. Before you repeat it, Ralph.
I think
let
I
me
just
make
went past 100, but I'm not sure I made
No,
it
I'm
written
good.
down.
I think we need
89, I'm gonna-
some criteria in there for experience in Wakulla County, too, or experience with small government. Is that mentioned in there under experience?
Well, and here's the definition of experience as used last time. We can make it whatever we want this time. Experience, proposer's experience in providing the services as requested. Has the proposer ever represented other local governments? That's what was the criteria that was used last time.
But basically speaking, all this is arbitrary. It's arbitrarily as to how I view whatever. So
I'm
it-
fine with what you said. You want to go ahead and repeat it?
Okay. 30 points capability, 25 experience, 25 cost, 5 flexibility, 5 references, and 10 oral.
Now, on the selection procedure, all right, let's say we're down to 3 firms. We each, right, Heather, assign from 0 to whatever Ralph points he has for each firm for each category, right? And then that gives a total score at the bottom, right?
That's how you did it before.
And then we're each going to do this individually, and then they're going to add the scores up, and whoever comes up with the highest score is the one that's selected.
That's how it was
Okay.
done before.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no, and I would just assume do that, you know,
If we was to
Do that after the last presentation.
presentations,
Mhm.
we sit right here, you do it. You don't go home and talk to your buddies or call your friends and say, what do you think I should do? The presentation's over, you fill out your form, you hand it to Davis.
And we would have to ask for a 3-month extension in order to be able to go through this process.
Do you agree with doing it that
Well,
way?
we'll cross the 3-month extension, but if we can move forward, yes, we can get this
I think,
done.
I'm fine with what Ralph had suggested, so we don't need,
That's
I mean,
right.
you're
It
free to
would be
go ahead
jammed.
now.
We may need a month extension, but I think we can work with Heather on
And
that.
I don't know if
need
that's
be.
Heather's decision or the whole firm the partners have to sit down and vote on it. I don't know how lawyers work. They'll
But
probably have
if
secret meetings.
if we was to do the full 3-month extension, then there wouldn't be the time constraint that we have. I mean, if we just do 1 month, we're still, if we do a 1-month extension, we're still time constrained on our own self.
Well,
But if we
authorize
do-
me, I'll negotiate that with Heather.
Okay, I mean,
Okay.
I think we need to negotiate a 3-month extension. That way we're not, we're not pressed for time at all, and when we can go through, we can slow walk through we have the time to slow walk through the negotiation process. You know, if we just do 1 month, you know, it seems like the board's wanting to just do the 3-month extension, but I think it does need to be a full 3-month extension to give us time to properly vet whoever applies.
Heather, how are you with that?
Are y'all okay with
Am
that?
I with, do we
Absolutely.
a
3-month?
3-month extension? I haven't given it much thought. I'd have to get back with David on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. Let's give David the authority to enter into that negotiation. So I'll make a motion that we take it out for RFP with the modified changes to the evaluation criteria and give the county administrator permission to negotiate a 3-month extension.
I'll second
I
that.
second that.
Now, the thing I mentioned earlier about the first 8 hours when you work on an ordinance being no charge, is that something that's in the contract and doesn't need to be in the RFP, right? How do the firms then determine their price that we're going to be using for a criteria?
That's up to each firm. They're gonna give you price proposals. Some of them may just be hourly at a set hourly rate.
I mean, do we have anything we can index this to, or at least we're
The
looking at
problem is,
apples to
I
apples?
ran into this in the private side as well. There's, according to what you're doing, you're gonna get a wide range of variables on cost.
I think, but
Well, we need to
But
set
I think we're gonna work on this a little bit and try to narrow some of that down when we get ready to release the RFP, to where we can nail it down to where there's a fixed price, yearly
It's
contract.
basically apples to apples.
That way we can get
Well,
some apples.
not
to apples.
really.
But still, you're gonna get some firms that are going to do I can come to that at this hourly rate.
Well, here's 2
Well-
points, real quick. The incumbent is always at a disadvantage because the other firms know what she's charging, or her firm is charging. They could say, well, I'll charge a little bit less than that, and I'm going to get those points. But they could also say, because they would do it per hour, Heather's firm says, we'll do this lawyer work for $50 an hour. This other group says, we'll do it for $40, but it takes them twice as long to do it.
No, but we don't want to do it that way. What we want to do is set a standard 1 through 10 of your hourly rate will be this, your legal rate will be this, your travel will be this, and whatever.
Well, what I'm saying is
Let's
they could take
let's put
more
everybody
time.
on the same platform
You
where
can't do that.
Yeah.
So what,
I can't.
so So what I think I'm hearing is that we're really not going to be asking for people, law firms, to submit proposals to us. We're going to say, if you want to work for Wakulla County, this is what we're going to pay you under these conditions.
No, that's not what I'm
But
saying.
that's what I'm hearing over here. When we're going to be setting this much per hour and it's going to cost you this much to do that.
We're going to ask them, we're going to
That's
set...
not what he was saying.
What I'm saying is that we're going to want to know what your hourly rate is for this kind of work, what your hourly rate is for this kind of work, what your retainer is. First of all, what is your retainer just to work for us? Then basically, what are your rates going to be for these different services? It's
You understand my problem with that is that I could say I'm charging less per hour, but I take twice as long to do it.
Then hopefully we can look at that person and because this is going to be a judgmental deal anyway. If they all had 100% of the same things, we're going to make a judgment on, you know.
Why don't
whatever.
we think about that seriously, Ralph? What weight did you give cost? Because I think you're seeing now cost is a highly variable thing.
Oh, sure.
Would you
You're
be?
not going to know what the law firm is going to charge you until after they've charged you.
Yes.
Of a year, because,
Yeah.
like Randy said, it could take me 2 hours to do an ordinance because I've done it for other places and we have the experience. It could take somebody else 10. At a less
I'm going to withdraw my motion and ask you to, I think I made the motion already, but my second, I would ask you to, let's cut that criteria back down. I know cost is important, but in this case, it's such a highly variable thing, we can't, it's not like asphalt where we can nail it down.
So instead of 25, just lower the percentage?
What was it before?
Last time around, it was 15.
I know.
Well, I'm willing to
I drew
entertain
my
it.
second,
You
so
know,
I
I
was-
mean, and I don't know that that's rock solid, but I just
But do
think
you understand
that
the inherent
Absolutely, I
complexity?
do.
You can't just say, well, this guy's cheaper, so we're going to pick them. You may end
I
up...
think in that case, that guy's probably, if we left that, my criteria I recommended, the low bidder, he is going to be high on that scale, but he's probably not going to be high on the experience scale. I don't know of a law firm in the state of Florida that represents more governments than this firm
Why
does.
don't we go back
So-
to the 15, if you're willing to do that, what the old one was, and then add some more to the experience or to the other one?
I mean, I'm fine with that.
So, all right, Brenda.
Let me ask you one question. We have a contract with Heather. We know what this contract says. You know how it's being charged. What is wrong with opening that contract up and saying basically these is the criteria that you're going to these are the criteria that you're going to
the
come
problem
forward.
becomes is like her firm is she allots so much time to do work on particular things, and if that adds up to 10 hours, and then anything over that is billed on an hourly basis.
Then basically let everybody
but
bid on that same thing.
But here's the problem. That's the problem with evaluating that, and I'm not saying right or wrong. Is her firm may take 2 hours to do
I
that.
understand
The other
that.
firm may say it took us 10 hours to do that, and I've seen that happen before.
It may
as
be
well.
the reverse.
But it may be the reverse. It could be a
Yes.
half hour, but you don't know
I
that. That's what I'm saying.
understand.
That's the unknown that you
I
enter into.
understand that.
But, okay, so you won't know that until the firm's working for you.
Until you're already
And
in.
what I'm saying
That's
is
right.
we have a known entity here. If the board is not happy with that known entity, then there's reason to go out and bid. If the board is pleased with what we're getting for our money, then there's no need to go out and bid.
I'm not unhappy. Heather's probably the nicest and probably the best attorney in the world, but the people want us. They want us to look at their numbers. We represent them on what the cost may be.
I think what Howard's trying to say, and Heather, please don't take offense to this. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't.
Well,
But also you need to
Okay.
consider this. There is a cost of doing business possible in realizing changing any type of firms like this and law firms. There is a cost of doing business that will increase no matter what if we do change firms, because you got to realize staff. I mean, it's not just like a asphalt company where we say you go out there and you pave that road now. It's not like that. There is an integration, a huge integration that would happen. So therefore, there are inherent costs that are hidden here that if it's worth it and that's what we want to do, then let's head down this path. But if it's, we need to be careful here because we could waste a lot of money and time.
Like I said at the beginning, if the vote was there to just extend it, I would vote for that. Simply because I know what we used to pay and it's a whole lot cheaper now than what it used to be. But if the support is not there, then I'll go along with the RFP.
Well, let's look at 11 and 12, and I'm not saying this is not justified. I'm just trying to put some real numbers on this. The monthly legal services for 11, 12, 114, 999, 96. So I guess base salary, if you want to consider it that way. Then when we look at
No, you really can't consider it as base salary. Heather doesn't get that money, right?
No, not her, for her firm.
Her firm.
Her firm. So if we have no lawsuits, nothing else they have to review, that would be the minimum that we paid out during that time period. Now, we've got all kind of other litigation that has occurred, and so, if we total up the total that we paid to the law firm, and I didn't have this prepared, but here's one cost, $160,190, $30,133, $21,665, and $10,000.
What was the monthly, Ralph, please, if you will? What was the monthly total for the whole year for monthly legal service?
$114,999.
Okay, it was in 08 and 09. It was $146,000.
Correct.
With additional legal costs, with a total legal cost, if I'm reading this correct,
it's a lot more.
$311,000. What was the total legal cost in the one you're looking at?
Let's see, 160, 90,
Should be added up somewhere, isn't it?
10.
Yeah, spreadsheet's hard to...
It looks to me 220 if I'm
So it was
calculating.
in 08, 09 it was $311,000, and this past year it was $220.
Right, and I know that we can't do an apples to apples comparison because it depends on what legal battles that both had to face at that time. So I'm not trying to say that. But who knows? What if we put a bid out there and someone's willing to throw in some of that legal cost that we're paying for these? I mean, I don't know. I don't know until someone presents a proposal, and then we can evaluate that. We may get it and say, we're good to go. We keep marching forward where we are, but I mean, this is just a matter of let's shop, let's compare, and then we make a decision after we've gathered all the facts.
Well, like I said, I'm willing to extend it if there's another vote, if there's 2 more votes. If there's not, I'm willing to RFP it.
I'm willing to extend it.
I'm willing to extend it as well.
Okay.
Because there is a lot of unknown cost out there, and I don't have a problem with the firm of Neighbors of Giblin, and we know who we have now. But now we're extending it. How long are you talking about extending it? The full
Whatever
thing?
the contract allows. What does it allow?
The contract allows any extension mutually agreed to by the parties. Keep in mind, I mean, we've talked about this before, you have a 60-day termination, or if you don't think we're doing our job, you can terminate it immediately.
What was the last extension?
3 years.
3 years.
I have no trouble. Please.
Hold on, let's dispense. Ralph has a motion.
Wait a minute.
I
I
want
want to discuss.
Well, then you can
Well,
second Ralph's motion.
I second Ralph's motion.
Okay.
Hold on, wait a minute. Does the extension have to be for 3 years? I mean, can it be for a year? I mean, can it?
Whatever is mutually agreed upon.
I mean, it doesn't automatically have to be 3 years. I mean, we could just say, okay, extend it for another year.
They have to agree to it, and we have to agree.
I mean, whatever we do, I mean, even if it was 1 month, 3 years, or whatever, they got to agree to it.
I don't think you don't have any costs associated with extending it just for a year, do you? I mean, that doesn't cut your profit margin down, is what I'm saying.
No,
I like Waste Pro had to invest in all this kind of stuff.
I think voting to extend this for 3 years is a little much. If we did vote to extend this, I would just say at the maximum. If we voted to extend it tonight, I would say a maximum of a year.
Okay, and I'm assuming, Richard, that's going to be an ongoing thing. You're never going to want to review it more than a year at a time. Because if there's no reason to do it 3 years now, there'd be no reason to do it 3 years next year either.
Well,
or is there some special circumstance?
I'm going to stay with the fact that I'd like to see an RFP on it. It has no bearing on the job that Heather's done or anything. It's just in the interest of the cost, and we're using the people's money, so we should run it out there. So my vote's going to be to do an RFP.
And I agree with your interest in cost, and my confidence is based upon what we used to pay and what we pay now. Those are 2 drastically less figures today.
I mean, we are paying a lot less now than what we
Yes.
did. I mean, the spreadsheet shows that. It
We're
shows.
getting sued a lot less, too, by the way.
Yes.
So if the cost could go down then, could it go down now? I mean, are we at the bottom? I mean, I don't
Maybe we
know.
wanna be
I
at
don't know the answer to that
We don't
until...
want to be at the bottom of costs. We want to be at the most fair, best bang for the buck. And like I said, I'm not passionate about this issue, no offense, Heather, but I do think that based on my past experience, we are getting good value for tax dollars.
May very well
Some
be.
people may not
But
agree
we,
with
we
some
would
things.
know. We would know this way.
But
if
you
we bid it
can't,
out.
but the hard thing is, Ralph, I agree with that if we were bidding asphalt. We can't know that bidding professional services because we have no idea what we're going to pay. How would we look if we fired them, got a new law firm, all of a sudden legal costs up $80,000 a year? How would we look then? We'd look like, why didn't y'all know about this?
Well,
there's no way
and,
to
and
know.
it could go up now depending on what kind of legal challenges that
Well,
face us next
back
year.
to my point before, it could go up simply by a new firm taking more time to do something and billing less hourly rate and taking a lot longer to do it.
Yeah.
If I vote for an extension, I really only want to vote for a year. I don't want to go to 3.
That's fine.
You know, if,
I think 2 is a good compromise.
I can
I
go
think-
for 2.
Yeah, and I think, though, that there's, you know, when you asked about are there any things like Waste Pro, that the law firm has to assure their staff and schedule their staff to be able to meet the needs of their clients. And it's unfair to ask them to do it on a year-by-year basis, because then you're asking them to possibly let people go or hire extra or whatever's going on. I think, for me, it's like when you go to a doctor, you've established a relationship. If there's something that you're concerned about, if you're not sure that you're getting the right price, if you're not sure you're getting the right legal, I don't know that we know how to really shop for a law firm. And probably we need, if we're going to be doing that, and I think that's a reasonable thing to do, we have to educate ourselves, not by asking Heather, how do we do this, but by asking other attorneys, how do we do this?
Would you be willing, I don't want to put you on the spot too bad here, you know, the one thing that always got me is the first 8 hours are free, right, basically, on an issue. Wasn't that in the contract?
The first.
If I come up with some crazy idea, I want to do this ordinance or whatever, the first 8 hours you work on it, you don't start billing the county, right? That's all in, huh?
10.
That's included in your price. But as soon as it goes to 11, we get charged for 11 hours.
But we do have a retainer. I'm sure we have a retainer. So the first 8 hours falls under the retainer.
10 hours. But the thing is, once she works on it 11, we get charged for the entire 11. And that's always kind of, is that correct?
No, I wouldn't think so.
Oh.
It's anything that is expected to be more than 10
Yes,
hours.
that is
Yes,
correct.
And it would fit it.
So
Would y'all be willing to
What the
change that?
contract is.
You wouldn't get charged 10 plus the 11. You get charged 10 and then the
Just the
11th
one.
hour.
You only get charged 1 hour if you work on 11.
That's right.
That's
That's what
right.
I'm saying. The
Okay.
retainer covers the first 10.
If that's the way it is, that's fine. Maybe I misunderstood when you explained it to me. I thought that if you worked 12 hours, we got charged for 12
No,
hours.
that is how it's written, but we are willing to negotiate on that.
Okay, so it is how it's written.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is how it's written.
But you would be willing to negotiate to change that to say if you work 12, we only get charged for 2.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
So let me ask you, and I'm
There's
understanding
your
something
cost.
I didn't know tonight. Let's just break this down. Here's a small number. Weatherization application. We paid $45 for that. So does that mean, are you saying that it exceeded 10 hours by $45?
The way it works, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, I know y'all think I'm insane when I say this. If it takes 10 hours or less, we don't get charged anything. If it
So
takes,
how did we pay $45?
I don't know, maybe it's copies or something.
I mean, and there's bigger numbers. I just picked that because
If
it's a
it's-
small number to make the
Some of those
point.
now, some of these are paid out of the closing costs they're pass-throughs, like the code enforcement issues, those are pass-throughs that are paid.
If it's 11 hours, we pay for the whole 11 hours, right?
Right now.
And right now, we do, okay? And she's willing to negotiate. I'll go along with a 2-year if y'all will negotiate to take that.
I don't mind doing that. I really
10
don't
hours.
mind
Let
doing
me ask you a question. On your retainer,
You understand?
on your retainer, is the retainer just for you to show up? I'm just being whatever.
There is probably $180 to $200 of attorney time per month under that retainer. We do not. a huge bang for your buck.
Every time you call her, for example, and ask about this or
I
ask about
probably
that.
called her 4 times last year.
Well, I don't call her either.
Here we go. Sign ordinance. We paid $3,927 in 11/12. So does that mean that more than 10 hours was spent on the sign ordinance?
Yes.
You know, I
At
mean,
our request. And that's why I made a statement a long time ago. Please vet your items under discussion before we move forward with an ordinance and start having to pay attorney's fees.
You did that.
Right?
Yeah.
Am I trying to save the people money, Jared? Thank you.
You are, Randy. You did say that. You said for us
Noise
not to be
ordinance,
silly and
$6,500.
use attorney time.
So, if you'll go with the 2 years, Heather, if you'll take that 10 hours and apply it to every...
I'm happy to do that.
Huh?
I'm happy
And that,
to
we're
do
talking
that.
about, that's
I'm
not,
okay with 3 years as long as we know we're getting
that's not
the right
chump
bang.
change either. We're
Yeah.
talking, I don't know what attorneys charge, but $100 an hour or something probably.
So you're
More than that.
Huh?
saying basically that your 10 hours, the 10 hours, you will waive the 10 hour. We will gather the 10 hours, so all the charges occur after the 10 hours.
That's correct.
Right now, if it's 9 hours, it costs us nothing.
But it's
If it's
per-
11 hours, it costs us
And it's per
$1,100.
item. So you could have, I could have 100 items that are 5 hours and you don't pay anything
But
extra.
I think she's already
It's
agreed
part of the,
to that.
it's part of the base fee.
Yeah.
I would be able to go 2 years.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
but there
I'll go
again, you
2
asked me
years.
about my motion. I can't make a motion. I mean, it's got to be one of you that
Ralph's
does
got a
it.
motion, there's a second on the floor, we need a vote.
What's
Wait,
Ralph's
wait,
motion?
wait.
Hold on.
Ralph's
We
motion.
got a lot of we got a lot.
You've got the motion on
No.
the floor.
No,
I
I got
make-
the motion for the RFP.
I withdrew my second.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Jerry
And Jerry
seconded,
seconded
so we
my
got a
motion.
motion and a second.
But I want to clarify one thing. As just been shown, that what we have now is a lot about an $80,000 or $90,000 cheaper than what we had before.
It's,
More than that cheaper.
It's more
Considerably
than
more
that.
than we had.
It's over.
I did the
And
numbers
it's
on that.
The
It's
biggest
way-
thing is predictable.
Yeah.
It can be.
And we know the services we're getting, and we know pretty much the price that we're getting them for
Right.
at the present thing. Whereas if we go the other, then we have
Devil you
unknowns.
know.
I'm
right?
going to ask another question. I got another question. At what point does the 10 hours start? Is that a monthly 10 hours? We get the first...
Per item.
Per item.
Per item.
So if we as a board vote to have an ordinance to make the sun come up an hour earlier, and we seriously vote on that and tell Heather to work on it, she'll work on it 9 hours, it doesn't cost us a dime. She works on it 12 hours, it costs us $1,200. Assuming it's $100 an hour, I don't know what the hourly rate
But
is.
you said you
Wait
only
a minute.
wanted to be charged for those last 2, and that's...
Exactly.
No, she'll be charged $200. But
I just saved us money, Jerry, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But we're saying, again, to be clear, it's not free the first 10 hours. I mean,
No,
it's
that's part of the retainer.
Exactly.
Well, that's
And-
correct. The first 10 hours is the retainer.
Not the way it's been right now. The guys want to be clear on
It's
that.
not the way
Right,
it's
right.
written right now, it's not the way it was negotiated last time.
If it's 10 or less, it's free. If it's 10 or more,
10 or
you
less
charge...
is part of the base
You
pay.
charge for everything up to that point that you've worked on it.
You don't get free 10 and then
Don't
pay
get
for
free
an
10
hour.
and then pay for an hour.
Yeah.
But Heather's agreed to change
mean-
that, right, Heather? For the-
What if you go out for an RFP and someone says, I'll give you the first 15 for free? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's what I'm
that's
talking
why I say I
about.
saved us money.
Yeah,
We just did that right now.
Sure.
yeah, well, let's make sure we don't...
And what if you go out for an RFP and firms say, well, we'll do the first 15?
Well,
You know?
again, I know how much it used to cost. I know how much it costs now. I'm happy with the job they do. I'm not going to put my neck on the chopping block for them, but I am happy with the job they do, and I will support a 2-year extension. But there is a motion and a second on the floor.
What is your motion and second?
My motion is to go to an RFP with the changes recommended and allow the county administrator to negotiate a 3-month extension.
And I second that motion.
Okay, so
I'm going to be voting against it.
I've just said I would be willing to go for extension for 2 years, but no longer.
Okay, and I'll make
You
that
know,
motion if
and-
this one fails.
Okay.
So you need to vote.
All right, so we'll go. Okay. All right, so everyone for the motion.
Aye.
Everyone against.
Aye.
Okay, so that one failed. and then
Richard,
we-
you voted aye against?
Yeah, I voted aye against.
All right, now I'll make a motion to give a 2-year extension to the contract with the provision that what we just talked about, Brenda, you got that? About the first 10 hours being free, irregardless of what comes after that. Is that okay with you, Heather, to put that in the motion?
I'll
Okay.
second that for discussion. Ralph, since you and I lost that last battle, then this is the best battle we got. We really are...
I just have a hard time answering to the public of why we don't shop for things. I mean, we're gonna do the same
We
thing
need to
for
do a better job than
Cleve's
educating the
contract
public.
and for any other contract for our medical officer. You know, I mean, I like to gather the facts and make a decision.
Those are things that are a lot easier to quantify, though, in terms of dollars. We can ask OMI or whoever, or Veolia, if you even wanted to, give us a number to run Public Works. You have a number. You can compare it. You know, legal services is totally different.
I disagree, but that's another opinion.
Well, I mean, look, if we get the wrong firm and they're not working out, we still have the ability, just like she said, to terminate the contract. Not that we want to go down that road and quickly terminate it, but you know, I mean, we're gonna see experience. We're
I
gonna see
understand.
references.
Things are running smooth, which is a lot cheaper to do than it used to be, and I just assume.
Mr. Thomas, we didn't get the vote on that.
Hey,
so-
I'm okay with not winning every
Okay.
time. That's
all
that's
right.
the way this works.
No,
you
I'm
know?
not saying whatever. Now the motion comes back to accept the 2-year extension with the first 10 hours, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the best we can do, probably.
I mean, it sounds like that's what's going to pass.
That's what
I mean,
I'm saying.
I'm not for that, but that's okay. I don't have to be for that.
And that
you know?
doesn't mean you're not for Heather. I understand if you
Exactly.
vote against it.
Yeah.
You're doing what you think is the right thing to do, and I
Exactly.
respect that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so is there any more discussion?
I still like you, Ralph.
Hey, I love all you guys.
Is there any more
And Heather,
discussion? Any more discussion?
No more.
All in favor of the motion for the 2-year extension and then the first, 10 hours free? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay. So motion passes 3-2, is that what?
Hey, that's the way this system works.
That's right. That's
Now, having
that's
said
government in
that,
action.
Good to
having
go.
said that, Heather, please don't change your email number or your...
Email account.
Yeah.
That's a phone number.
Don't change your number. Take my...
Okay, now that's got that. We go to the commissioner agenda items.
Oh,
That's you, Jerry.
we're doing better than I actually thought we would, so
Yeah.
we're doing pretty good.
Basically.
I said 10 o'clock. I think I'm
I
going
said
to win.
12,
I'm going
so-
to win the pool.
Good night, Wade.
I want to read off Richard's computer.
I got it right here, Jerry.
You got it right there. You got it.
I'll
You got
find
it.
it.
You got it.
Where do I read?
You want the motion, or you want the
Yeah.
background and everything?
Just a motion. Actually, we had a meeting out at Wakulla Springs, and out of that meeting, I brought this motion. And the motion is to approve to support TCC and the Wakulla Environmental Institute in their efforts of leasing 1,850 acres of land in Wakulla County from the state of Florida Park Service.
Second.
Do we have any?
Wait on
we
Howard.
want Howard to come back because I know he was very vocal on this issue. So we'll at least
He's
let.
talking then, I'm going to do the same thing he's doing right now, so.
Okay.
Not that I don't want it.
I just want to wait for
Grant.
Commissioner Kessler to get back because I know he's
Yeah.
probably want to say something. So.
Commissioner Moore, did they want a letter of support from the county,
Yeah,
or
they
just
yes, please.
Authorize
want
the
to add
chairman.
that to your motion?
Authorize the chairman to sign a letter of
Yes,
support.
my motion is to authorize the chairman to sign a letter of support
I'll second that.
for TCC Environmental Institute to lease 1,850 acres from the state of Florida Parks Department.
Okay.
And I'm going to go where Howard was just at, I'll be right back. Y'all go ahead and talk amongst yourselves.
We'll bring it back for ratification at the next meeting.
Right. Has there been a motion and a second? I mean, he motioned second, right?
the letter.
Is any commissioner want to speak on this? Mr. Kessler, now that you're back.
Are there citizens to speak on this?
There are some citizens. We'll let them speak first, and then we'll go.
Come back.
First citizen is Bob Danzy. All right. Victor Lambu.
Yep. Victor.
Victor.
Oh, I bought five. Got a different name. Gentlemen, this seems to be very premature. You're talking about details about the commission, your lawyer, 10 hours, and here's an institute that is going to lease almost 2,000 acres, and yet there's no detailed plans or real plans of what they're going to do with it, other than that they're going to make it the greenest place in the state. Now, if you're going to vote for that, they also say, and I don't know how it's going to be paid for, that they're going to hook up their camp and the whole property there to your sewer system. I don't believe that you have a sewer system in that vicinity. So where is that money going to come from? You're going to build a sewer system out there and furnish that? That's going to cost our taxpayers money if you do, or they're going to have to get that money somewhere. But this is a plan to say we're going to do the best with our goal. It's not a plan without anything. For you to be supporting something without knowing what is going to be done seems to be the height of irresponsibility. Thank you.
I think, Mr. Chairman, we do have a sewer at Wakulla Springs.
We have a USDA grant right now, or is in the process of running sewer up Spring Creek Highway, and Wakulla Environmental Institute has agreed to tie onto that sewer before they build anything.
We have an existing force main on Wakulla Aaron Road that runs through. It was built when we built Fox Run subdivision. If y'all remember that in '99 or so. It runs all the way. It serves the River Springs Elementary School and Middle School, and then runs up to Wakulla Springs and ties into them.
Right.
I happen to know that for a fact.
I've got three other citizens to speak. Let's let the three citizens speak, and then we'll speak. James Hennessy, next citizen, James Hennessy. Is he still here? He's already gone. Ms. Dana Peck.
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. As someone who's roamed the halls of the faculty at TCC for more than 15 years, there just are not enough superlatives to say about their academic offerings for students who come there, especially for the first 2 years. And when Wakulla Environmental Institute announced that it was coming to Wakulla County, that's very, very exciting news. That's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. But not this. Not to let TCC's extension of I don't know what take 1,850 or almost 2,000 acres of the land for 50 years. I will be long dead before this little lease runs out. We were invited repeatedly by the director of the Wakulla Environmental Institute to take a look at the track record of the Wakulla Environmental Institute. And here's what that look reveals. In January of 2013, TCC was aligned with a fellow who went down to Panacea to pitch a waste collection site where he would take TCC students and teach them how to sort trash. And there would be trucks running in and out of 98 all around the clock if they'd just sort of get together on that. Now that was dropped. It died because the fellow who was doing the pitching was such a controversial character in news reports from another county. Then TCC's given 50 acres of land for the Wakulla Environmental Institute. What are those 50 acres doing right now today? They are growing weeds. And not only that, they're off the tax roll for Wakulla County. So you're not getting a dime out of that. No benefit. Then 150 acres are bought off US 319, and what's happening with those acres? It's been bragged that construction will start this summer. I called the building department, planning and zoning. There are no permits pulled for that construction. There's no site plan for that construction. So you can say it's kind of sitting around too. And then we took a look at the oyster program. This began in January. It lasts 12 months. And 7 months into this oyster program, students who were promised $7,500 worth of material have not received that material so they can start growing oysters. And not only that, according to public records at TCC, the loan money for that program is gone. And not only that, they're proposing to charge the students into this program $5,000 more than the $7,500 they were to pay back from their first oyster crop. If you look at this management, if you really look at it with an open mind, not a biased one, if someone came to you and said, let me take all your land, or 2,000 acres for 50 years, would you agree
Thank
to
you,
that?
Ms. Peck. Thank you. Mr. Bill Anderson?
Before speaking on that, if you don't mind, going back to the legal RFP, I have no axe whether it's this firm or any other firm, but it's extremely painful as a citizen to sit out here and see y'all bring forward an agenda item for an RFP to rebid it, then at the last minute decide to extend the contract for 2 years, talking about 10 free hours. They're not free, as we were talking about, they're in the retainer. But in the minutes, two of you said they're free. They're not free. It's very painful to give no more consideration to it than you've done. I've retained some of the biggest firms in the country and for 40 years or whatever, and there's nothing wrong with the firm that you have, but the procedure you just went through is really shameful to see you end up in the last minute to switch for an RFP to a 2-year extension. Getting to this particular proposal, I went to the public hearing at the that was taking place. I think 3 of you all were there. It was an extremely sketchy proposal that was put forth. Before you make any recommendation, you ought to learn more about this. One of the things they were saying, they wanted to borrow $3.5 million, and they were going to repay that back from the campground. What happens if you approve this under that lease if they don't have enough revenue and they can't repay that loan? Is that loan company then going to be the lessee of this property? And if so, what are they going to do? You don't have any idea about any of those kind of things. You have no information hardly at all to be making a recommendation as to what happens on this. You need to get more information and let this thing proceed. Even the president of TCCs said this was just the sketchiest thing, the first meeting, to figure out what they were going to do. There's no plan, there's no written plan, there's no nothing. And yet you're thinking about endorsing that which you know absolutely nothing about. Learn more and then make a decision whether you should recommend it. Thank you.
And that's all of our citizens that we had to speak on that issue.
Jerry, what was your motion just for them to support leasing it, not endorse any sort of plan or anything?
It was for a letter of endorsement.
For them to
For
lease
a
it.
letter of support.
A letter of support.
For them to lease the property.
Yes.
For
Not
their
any
plan.
endorsement of
move
any
forward.
plan or anything,
Just
to
a
lease
letter of endorsement,
or support.
a letter of support in their efforts to lease.
To lease the
Right.
property.
To
Okay.
lease the property.
Well, whenever they had their public meeting there at Woodville, I mean, I went and I spoke in support of that verbally. I mean, I've already publicly given my support, and this would just be putting written form, being consistent with what I've already done.
I just want to point out, it's a letter of support for them leasing it, not for any specific
Right, just
use of the land or project
the
or whatever.
ultimate decision of whether they are or aren't given that lease isn't going to be decided in this commission. It's going to be decided beyond us. You know, the ultimate decision. You know, we're in a way we're kind of spectators of this alongside with others, but this is just a letter, you know, saying that we're in agreement with what it is they're asking.
But it does have some meaning. It's not completely meaningless. It does.
It does have meaning, yes.
It's a letter of support.
Any more discussion? Any more discussion?
Yes. So, so when we say about 2,000 acres, you're basically saying that you're supporting taking 1/3 of Wakulla Springs' present land right now and giving it away to another entity, in this case TCC, for 50 years. And that land was bought, especially the land that TCC is asking to get a lease on, was bought for millions of dollars with its primary objective to protect the water quality of Wakulla Springs, to improve it. And so before we start giving away land to be developed, campground, etc., we certainly should make sure that we are improving Wakulla Springs first and protecting that and getting that water quality to the levels that we need it to be.
Please clarify, when you say before we start giving land away, we're not giving anything away. Okay?
Before we start supporting, a plan that will take 1/3 of Wakulla Springs land away for 50 years, we should be making sure we have the protections in place for Wakulla Springs, which we're still working on, and Wakulla Springs is still being impaired. As far as what's going to be taking place here by TCC, creating jobs, question mark. How many jobs are going to be created by TCC running a campground? Does it need a 50-year lease on 1/3 of Wakulla Springs land in order to teach students how to run a campground? There are other options. But the main thing for me with this whole thing are two. One, it's the sketchiest of plans right now. And second, it's an institution who has not done this before. Our park services have done things like this before. If we want this type of thing to happen, it seems like it should be under the Park Service and not under TCC, which has expertise, as we heard, in teaching kids in the classroom. They don't have the expertise of doing some of the things that they apparently are sketching out in this plan. So I'm not in favor of that.
I guess I would maybe equate this, and I know this is not a great analogy, but to the FSU Marine Lab that's out there. You know, this is on a different scale, of course. But it's along the same vein, I guess you'd say. I mean, like I said, it's not a great analogy, but it's a higher education institute with a component that's involved in the environment, and I think we're lucky that component is in our environment.
Well, I'd like to see WEI, we'll call it Environmental Institute, first make a success at the Environmental Institute campus before it strikes out and proposes to take 1/3 of the land from Wakulla Springs.
At least there's not somebody trying to pump the groundwater out and sell it down in South Florida.
And when we talk about their experience, how many law enforcement centers did they have prior to opening the one in Gaston County? And I think the folks in Gaston County would tell you that's a tremendous asset to their county, the jobs, the people that come there from all over the world. And, you know, we're talking about a state institution. We're not talking about giving it to me and you and having a private organization run it. These folks certainly have resources. They've brought in a tremendous amount of state and federal grant money. They've made a commitment to be good stewards of the land. I'm really kind of confused about the sketchy plan where I've seen an entire drawing of where the campgrounds are going to go, how many campgrounds are going to go, where the sewer lines are going to go, where it's going to avoid all the karst features, where it's going to connect and improve the situation that's there now. You know, I was very surprised a few weeks ago when I learned that Wakulla Springs has access to sewer, yet they still have buildings today on septic tank. We got all these folks that are trying to improve the water quality and dealing with Tallahassee and dealing with all of Wakulla County, yet no one has found it important to get the septic tanks that are on Wakulla Springs property off of the septic tank and on the public sewer. That completely baffles me. So these folks have presented that plan. What we're not trying to get into the nuts and bolts and get into every little detail. We're just saying this is just a letter of support for them to move forward and explore it. They still have to make it viable. You know, no one in the state is going to allow Wakulla land to be repossessed because a bank loan goes south. That's all. I mean, surely there's a mechanism for that already. So you know, that's all we're asking here is to move forward with the plan, with the idea of exploring this and supporting it, so we can have, you know.
Well, you know, I liken this almost to 319 and 98 with no safety studies, and you do a realignment. We have no need studies by TCC to say hey, there's a real need here to train campground people. There's a real need here to train forest fires or, prescribed burnings. I mean, it's like doing things backwards. It's like you and I
If you
sitting
build
down.
it, they will come.
Yeah, well, it's like you and I sitting down and having a cheeseburger and saying, it might be a neat idea to do this and this on 1/3 of the land of Wakulla Springs. Great idea, let's go for it. Without doing the due diligence of seeing whether, we could train x-ray techs, and I saw that go on in my career, where schools were training x-ray techs. No hope for them to get a job, okay? And I don't want to see the same thing over here, so I want to see them do their due diligence before I get behind it.
I would encourage whoever starts dealing with them, that maybe if they want to do some sort of, I wouldn't call it restitution, but if they want to help us out, maybe they can run sewer up to Camp Indian Springs, which is all on septic tanks right now, by the way. Maybe you could throw that out to them as if they want to help us.
What you're talking about here is Mr. Jim Murdoch helped found the Law Enforcement Academy in Quincy, and it is an extremely highly successful, job-creating, tax-paying facility over there. Mr. Murdoch is the president and CEO of TCC Community College, one of the largest junior college. No, it's not a junior college. I guess it's a senior college. It's a state college.
Community college, yeah.
State college. It's one of the largest state colleges in the country. He has more students online than most any college in the country, including he's probably has a larger enrollment than probably Florida State, maybe.
No, it's got more students than FAMU, but not Florida State.
Really? Well, anyway, he is a successful businessman who knows what he's doing. We have a USDA grant to run the sewer up there to them, but he can't tell us everything he's going to do, because this is an ongoing process. I had a consultant that consults with the state tell me that Wakulla cannot understand or vision the benefit of TCC in the county in a 10-year, 15-year period, that they will be a main industry in our county, and we have to support them. I would probably imagine if they had the resistance that they are getting from us, very few people, they might have chose to go somewhere else. I hope that they don't even make that consideration, because they're going to be so invaluable to our community. But they've got to get started. Nothing gets started immediately.
I'd like to call a question.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead. All right, so we've had a question called. We have the motion made and second. Is there any more discussion?
All right, hold on. Before you vote, do you want this to go ahead and us execute the letter, have the chairman sign it, and we'll bring it back for ratification, but we'll go and send the letter, but it'll come back for ratification? Is that okay?
I suppose.
It's a letter of support. Can't y'all just type it and have Richard sign it?
Well, that's another option. We could have.
Well, I would like to have. You know what we're asked for here, and it's a letter of support.
Yes.
Go ahead and put it through your system and have commission.
Okay. And it doesn't have to come out of the board.
No,
okay.
we don't want to see it
Richard's
back.
fine with it. I'm fine with it.
All right. Good.
I'm good. I mean,
All right.
I'll sign what you.
I just need that clarification. Go ahead.
Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, pass 4-1. All right, we have our any county attorney issues?
No, sir.
I think we got her solved tonight.
County administrator.
I'm afraid I got a few things. First off, I'd like to, there's a couple of things here. I'd like to recognize Commissioner Thomas for, he was selected on the executive team for the Florida Association of Counties, which is huge as a second sophomore commissioner. He's well thought of in our county, and that brings believe it or not, that brings a lot of clout here to Wakulla County, as far as when he goes to the legislature and talks. He can not only talk as the county commissioner, but also as an executive with the Florida Board Association of
Good for
Counties.
you, Ralph.
That's very big for our county. Thank you for doing that. Also, he's been selected as, I don't know, taking his thunder, as Selective Service Regional Board as well.
Yes.
Selective Service. And also, we also have Commissioner...
Draft board.
Draft board,
okay.
I didn't know that there was still a draft board,
That's
but
right.
apparently we have one appointee for Wakulla County, and
That's right.
and I've been asked to serve on that.
Also, we have our Randy Merritt, the commissioner hero, for being in the right place at the right time. He actually, as you read in the paper, he did. It was incredible. Randy was very courageous. But also with Randy and then with Ralph, Randy's the vice chair of the Appalachia Regional Planning Council and the chair of the CRTPA, which is huge for our board. We have a lot of active in the state of Florida and this region members on our board.
I think Aunt Nicole deserves a Pulitzer Prize for that. Brilliant piece of journalism.
But no joke, all joking aside, it is tremendous to have a board with the chair of the CRTPA is huge. Is absolutely huge. We had the pre-bid conference for our land last week for our landfill closures. So we'll be getting, hopefully soon, we'll be getting those bids back, and we'll be coming back to you guys on how to finance that. We've got a plan already for that, but we want to let you know that has been released, and we've already had the pre-bid. OBBT 3, Phase 3 construction is progressing well. And our new field lights were installed on Field 1 at the rec park. Those are new state-of-the-art lighting that was bought with our 1-cent sales tax. They're should be up and functional here soon. Also, our women's club is almost complete. We've also got our first rental next month, as well as be used for our voting. Also, you will have the budget. Brittany and I will have the budget to you come tomorrow afternoon. It'll be in your boxes. We'll be setting up meetings to discuss the budget at some point in time as we move forward. So
anybody rented a boat slip at Rock Landing yet?
Yes, we have 2 rentals.
Oh, one.
One now. We kicked one guy out.
One's better than 0.
That's right. we had 2 for a couple of days, but so anyway, no, that's a high. But other than that, all of our other functions within our county are functioning as far as our are functional, and Cody Sahlberg is doing an excellent job. He's already saved us a considerable amount of money with his what he's done on the facility side and parks. We're having great success. Also, the Lion.
And he's a Sop Chopian, right?
He's a Sop Chopian, and he's doing a great job. He's really brought a lot to the table, which hiring good quality people, that's what they do. They bring quality things to the table. Also, he's working on new procedures now on the approval for the painting of the lion, and I wasn't going to bring that up, but painting of the lion, so therefore those new procedures will be in
like a movie title or something, doesn't it?
Huh?
Sounds like a good movie title.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The painting of the lion. So that's it. That's all I've got.
Silence of the Lambs.
I've got if that's all the county administrator items, I got a few items. I got a few citizens to speak at the second citizens to be heard, and then we'll go into discussions. First citizens, Gail Hickman.
I'm Gail Hickman, Hickorywood Drive. I came for the workshop tonight, and I am relieved that there will be no letter. Mr. Cushman, as chair of ASA, is fraught with problems of integrity. ASA earlier itself this year stated they did not want to be involved with this program, nor do they want to be involved in politics, yet he is. Until these problems are ironed out, it is a foolish mistake for any endorsement to be made by this county.
Our next citizen is going to be Steve Cushman.
Thank you. I guess I don't really need any introductions. Anyway, Steve Cushman from Panacea. What you have before you, since it was brought up about oyster spat coming out of another county, she was wrong. It's actually out of another state. The first sheet you have there is a pathology report on those oysters. Under Florida DAX regulations, I cannot haul in diploid oysters from another state or from the Atlantic Coast Board of Florida. They have to come from the Gulf. So to do that, we have to have those pathology reports, and yes, we do get some from around, but all the diploids that are in my possession right now were spawned right here in Wakulla County. The second one you have is an SAL permit from FWC that I hold. The third one's also another FWA, or an SAL permit I hold from FWC. And lastly is my AQ certificate for the hatchery that's in Panacea, which is an experimental hatchery, which has been trying to be closed down by Dr. Kessler for the last couple of months because he just doesn't want economic development in this county. As far as the trailer thing, I'm looking into that, but I kind of find it a little strange that there's a police report that surfaced tonight which wasn't available a month ago when we asked for it. Considering that trailer was picked up from my house by a 5-time convicted felon, I won't put a whole lot of emphasis on the person that said that. However, I will invite y'all out tomorrow at 3 o'clock at 2017 Bluxton Cutoff Road. We'll be having a ASA board meeting in which we will actually relieve Alethea Lang of her duties. So it hasn't happened yet. As far as Dana Peck's comments about TCC and the oyster aquaculture, I would sincerely invite you over to come and see the $54,000 worth of gear that's stacked in the room over there, floor to ceiling, 4 rows deep on all sides of that room. It's there. There's $67,000 worth of oyster spat sitting in an upweller in Panacea right now that belongs to TCC. Now I know that's more than the $75,000 that she talked about, so I wonder where that money came from, because it had to come from somewhere. You know, I have put a lot of work and effort into that, and I find it a little bit appalling that a 13-year English professor from TCC knows more about oysters than somebody that's doing it on a daily basis and has been for the last 2 years. So I guess if she's that good at it, maybe she'd like to come back to TCC and join us and make the program even better. So, you know, I don't know about all the attacks and everything that goes on, but I can tell you, my wife was in the hospital up in Tallahassee 2 weeks ago, and it came up about politics, and the nurse, one of the nurses knew who I was. And I got to tell you, I'm a little bit ashamed of what she said about Wakulla County and the reputation we have about the way things go down here. And it's no wonder we can't get things off the ground. You know, Dr. Kessler said in the June meeting that pushed the workshop for the ASA letter of support, it was just a group of people. Well, you have in your stuff a 501c3 letter from the IRS.
Thank you, Mr. Cushman. Next speaker is Chris Russell.
Did they turn your hand?
They did. It used to go up. Chris Russell, Carverville. Dang, Steve, you about messed it up for me, bro. I just wanted to come and tell y'all thanks to all the staff and everyone that stayed. A late meeting like this, and I really thought tonight that the citizens did a great job. We had some contentious issues. I've seen that issue go on, like I said, for a year, and I've seen it go back and forth. But tonight, I thought everybody did well. I don't know what brought that on, but it was a great sign. I think we made a lot of progress in that. You know, at the end of the day, you may remember the cookies. I don't know if you do or don't. We're still...
Everybody remembers.
I wish I had one right now. We're still neighbors when it's all done, and I think tonight we showed that pretty well. As far as the CRC stuff, thanks for running on that. You know, we will try to get another meeting, get that straight. We'll line up on the nonpartisan to what y'all approved. I hope we will. That will be my recommendation back. Residency requirements things. We were comfortable with letting legal change that as needed. I think our attorney said, hey, it's a little much, go back and vote on it, so we'll get that back. And that was a 14-0. And remember, we had 9 items going into the public hearings, 9 items. We walked away technically with 3 at the time. So we weren't trying to get a lot of things. We were very cognizant, Dr. Kessler, you brought up earlier, very cognizant of trying to keep it as low as possible. I think we did a pretty good job. Looks like we're going to come out of 4 because one got split up, but all in all, you know, that says a lot for our charter. So thank y'all, and thank all the staff that stayed out here tonight. And thanks, Mr. Boones. Bye.
Thank you.
Mr. Victor Lambu. Followed by, let's see, Dana Peck.
I'd just like to ask the question, why were you on such a rush to get rid of the wetlands ordinance? You had a big discussion, but the discussion was making people understand why you wanted to do this. Why can't you believe that the people will understand what you're saying? Why do you want to do it before them? You don't trust them. It's very obviously you don't trust the people. And that's a shame for a group of commissioners. 4 of you don't trust them.
Final speaker is Ms. Dana Peck.
You know, I signed up for Citizens to be Heard just in case I needed to come up and play cleanup or whatever it is you do when you're whatever. Anyway, to help you with some facts here, TCC is one of the medium-sized colleges in Florida. Florida has 28 community and colleges in the college system. It is not anywhere near the largest in the nation. It is not anywhere near the largest in the state. And I taught journalism and English, I think, for 16 years, but I'm not really good at math. But here's the deal. I was curious about the application from the Aquatic Science Association and for $2.85 million for a lot of words in the grant, and I won't go into them. I was curious about it initially because it said Aquatic Science Association and Wakulla Environmental Institute. Now, any person reading that would think that here's a combination effort, that these two are joined together and they're applying for this huge $2.85 million grant. According to TCC's public records response, there is no contractual connection between Aquatic Science Association and Wakulla Environmental Institute, and that is misleading. From the get-go, there are misleading statements, it appears, in that grant. For example, there is a reference to the Fish and Wildlife Commission of Florida and how they're going to somehow provide technical assistance from named people at Fish and Wildlife. And those named people, one of them sent an email to Mr. Cushman, I believe his name is, saying, no such thing, take it out of your grant. That is incorrect, and do not use our names like that again. Agriculture was named as somehow involved in this in some advisory capacity or help capacity, and agriculture said unequivocally, no, we are not working in that capacity. So now we have more misleading statements. And then we have a letter that came today from a credentialed marine archaeologist. And by credentialed, I mean he actually went to college and got a couple of degrees, and he does this for a living. And he said that Wakulla 3 project, if I'm reading the letter correctly, it's not going on anymore. There's no research referred to as stated in that grant. And he, this marine archaeologist, said he has severed his ties with this person of Aquatic Science Association. Mr. Cushman has said he has a degree. He said it in the newspaper. He does not, and that's just a flat fact. He has said that he has Air Force pilot, retired something. His military record doesn't show that. So with all of these contradictions lining up, wouldn't you be curious and wouldn't you be doubtful?
Thank you, Ms. Peck. All right, come to our Commissioner items. Commissioner Kessler, you've got any discussion items?
I'll pass right now.
All right, Commissioner Thomas.
I do. One quick one. People are asking what's going on at the community center. Just a reminder, next Saturday, July 26th, the Battle of the Bands, first annual Battle of the Bands, will be a fundraiser benefit. That starts at 10 a.m. at our community center.
I think so far the community center has done what it said it would do, which is not cost taxpayers a lot of money. It's pretty much self-sustaining, and I think so far everything's good.
Absolutely.
Is that it?
That's it.
I just want to piggyback off what Commissioner Thomas said. I went this week and I visited the community center. I wanted to see it in action, and I was really impressed by everything that I've seen, and it's just amazing the amount of public support that is going for this community center. And there's just donations continuing to come in, and there's a list at the community center of things that they are needing to make it an even better community center, but it's things that are not reimbursable by the grants that they have, and it's everyday things that it's everyday items. Just some of it is supply items like paper, some of it is classroom items, things like that. But it's things that they're not able to use their funding to get, but it's things that would make the community center better. So I would encourage you to, if you have time, to go by and to see what the work that they're doing at the community center, and see if there's some way that you might be able to fill some of those needs, you know, of that list. I mean, it's simple things like radios or just CD radios for the classrooms, things like that. Or, you know, if you have any children's DVDs or things like that could be used for classrooms, just little things like that. But it's very, very important, and I was really impressed by the community center, and I think it's going to be a great asset. And also wanted to tell the board that we've now have an active our public safety coordinating council, that we're organized. We were at we met at the sheriff's office EOC, and we had a really good meeting, and we're going to be meeting every month, and I think that's really going to be good as well.
I did miss one thing, if I can squeeze. I attended the Gulf Consortium meeting in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and there's not a lot of news, but just wanted to let you know it's still working through the process. They're hoping that money will still start rolling out this fiscal year, but there's no plan for that, and so right now they're preparing in case it happens, in case the rules are released out of Treasury and that starts moving forward. But it's still very much up in the air. I think there's still a legal battle that is pending January of next year. So I'm not too hopeful that that's going to start coming, but they're just preparing for it.
Okay. Ralph, did you pay for that travel expense yourself?
I did. I paid for that.
I got to hand it to Ralph.
Out of my own
we
pocket.
have zero travel budget for all the county commissioners. He paid to go to that thing to represent the county out of his own pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Commendable.
I just completed my certified county commissioner. I've been working for 18 months for that, and I've covered the cost of all of that. That's, you know,
It wasn't that too many years ago when there was tens of thousands of dollars spent on commissioners' travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's correct.
All right.
Jerry wants to go last, so I want to make an impassioned plea to anyone that owns a gas station out there that's listening. Will someone in the county please start selling E85? It's flex fuel vehicles, use them. And Ralph, I know what you're thinking. Look at you, you're an environmentalist. Not really. It's 104 octane fuel. So you can run a higher compression motor, you can run more turbo boost, and I think there'd be a big demand for it. Right, Steve? In the county, I think be a big demand. We got a lot of, you may not know this, we got a lot of mud boggers and a lot of hot rodders in this county that would just love to be able to run E85, and I think it'd be a stimulus to the county. Steve, you agree with me on this?
It can certainly stimulate marine sales, because I just put the
No, E85.
Yeah, that still has ethanol.
That's okay. It's the same. It's just a little more damaging to most automobiles. I was running a very clean outboard motor, and I put the. Wait a minute. Before you leave, I would like to introduce everybody to Ralph's proud mama.
and bodyguard.
This is Ralph's mother, she's so proud of her child. I didn't want you to leave before I did that.
You got to fill out a speaker card if
That's
you
right.
take your money.
I met her when she first got here and did, I think, a wind mitigation report on your new house, correct?
That's right,
All right.
you did. You came in and saved me $200 on my insurance.
Look at that, saving money every time you turn around.
If you put that ethanol in an older motor, I'd been using the regular good gas in my motor, and I couldn't get to a good gas thing, so I put the 10% ethanol in. 20 minutes later, my motor stopped.
Yep. Well, the E85 is 85% corn whiskey and 15% gas, but like I said, it's high octane.
It's good for his airplane.
High boost. You have to burn a lot more of it because it's not as efficient.
Since he's my competitor, I urge him to use it.
He would if somebody sold it. That's the problem. But anyway, that's all I got.
All right. I got a little something to say, really. I went to I want to defend TCC in what they're doing, and basically the people that I would really like to probably already gone to bed tonight, but if you're listening to this, please explain this to your friends, and I'm going to have to read this so I get it right. Basically, tonight, 4 of the commissioners defended the right of Wakulla citizens to use their property without additional restrictions and the taking of their property. Generally, the same group of people who would take your land with additional buffers are now trying to block the Wakulla Environmental Institute's plan to lease 1,850 acres from the state parks of Florida to use as an environmental teaching laboratory. Let me make this perfectly clear. There is no compromise with the Wakulla Springs Alliance Group. They are generally the same people who want to take your land to buffer the wetlands around a buffer that already exists. The state of Florida previously wanted a horse park on the property and relented to pressure by the Springs Group. Currently, Wakulla Environmental Institute compromised. No horse facility on the property they hope to lease. The state of Florida previously wanted a 160-space RV campground, which would benefit Wakulla tremendously. The Institute compromised for only 60-space RV campground. The Institute again compromised with a number of parking spaces at Cherokee Sink. If you can believe, only 30 parking spaces at Cherokee Sink swimming hole that thousands of Wakulla children have used for swimming over 100 years. You may as well close the sink if you only allow 30 spaces, which is exactly what the Springs Group would like to do. If all the facilities requested were approved, it would occupy less than 20 acres out of the 1,850. To be more precise, less than 1% of the 1,850 acres. The Wakulla Springs Group will not compromise on any issue. It's always their way or the highway. To keep the attendance down, when Wakulla Springs had the opportunity to join a very successful state park reservation system that increased reservations of the state park system from 14 million to 22 million over a 3-year period. Take a guess. The Springs Group chose not to participate. I can imagine that sometime in the future there will be an effort to reduce the number of people who swim at the state park, at the same time to require the swimmers to wear diapers to reduce the nitrogen they say that they will contribute to the detriment of the springs. As your commissioner, I will defend the Wakulla Environmental Institute. I will defend your property rights from the PhDs, the wealthy, and the radical environmentalists who most always are from out of town with the idea I have mine and let's keep everybody else out.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Beautiful. All right, done. Thank you all.